I think your background's kind of interesting because you've always had this like duality. You've had the tinkering side, the building side, like the engineering kind of brain ever since you were super young. And then you've also had this affinity for like action sports. Um, you know, a lot of people would just exist in one lane, right? It's like, oh, I'm just an engineer, or I'm the monster drinking action sports motocross guy. At what point did like those two worlds blend? And it seems like, I mean, I guess you were already designing stuff with motocross, but it seemed like climbing is what really cemented those two things together and really kind of like blended those 2 points of your life. Is that like a correct assessment of like how that worked, or?
I think it's most cohesive in a career sense in climbing, but I actually think that what appears to be a spectrum from geeky to extreme, and you would think they would be very different. I think I brought both to the same activity. I think I actually had an element of creating the canvas for the activity. So if you think about skateboarding, if you think about snowboarding, where there's rails and jumps and things like that, if you go to a terrain park, you ride on the canvas that the park created. But I really enjoyed creating the jumps and welding the rails. So I actually combined those from a very early age. I was, like when I was 8, I think I got 2x4s for my birthday so that I could make a dirt bike jump. So it was always combining the two, athletics with the tinkering. So
From like a super young age.
yeah, from like as early as I can remember. Yeah, like 2x4s for my birthday, a welder in 1 year, steel bars.
A
1 year.
welder?
Yeah.
Were your parents like dad into construction? Like,
My dad was a bit into construction. He worked for a concrete company and was a very hands-on, talented tinkerer himself, and they definitely facilitated. Yeah, I like to say that my best education was the fact that my parents gave me a charge account at the local hardware store. This is like from when I was like 8 to 15, and I just thought I was getting away with something, but I could just go buy screws and paint and wood and just charge it to the family account. And I think I learned way more there than engineering school.
that's so cool. I mean, yeah, you think of like parenting tactics and things like that. And you like the iPad generation, like get your kid an Ace Hardware account. Like that is so cool. Like go to the store whenever you want, ride your bike down there and build, do whatever you need.
Yeah, it was awesome.
What freedom is that?
It was really cool. I grew up on 3 acres. My brother and I were into motocross racing. That was our primary pursuit. But we couldn't ride those race bikes in our neighborhood. So we had these little play bikes, but we also had bicycles, and I was into unicycling and all these things. And I was just outside creating all the time. So I actually think it's the perfect blend in action sports of how you create the canvas for the activity. And I think I brought that right along to climbing. And I think that's what becomes apparent in the gear tinkering and route development and things like that. But honestly, it feels like super true to what I've been up to for my athletic pursuits.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you talk about the canvas, like building the jumps and things, I think like at least for climbing, it seems like the canvas is pretty set. And that's kind of the one weird thing about climbing is you're finding things that already exist rather than creating them in a way. Although you could argue like a face climb, you're creating this route, but in the end, it still exists. You're not actually building anything. So how do you see that translate? How do you see that canvas kind of, what would you describe your canvas in climbing?
Yeah, I think that's what pulled me into the trad climbing and gear is, in a way, well, how you're protecting the route. You get a little bit of the puzzling aspect with beta, but definitely on the side of gear. And then I did get into route development relatively early, like a few years into climbing. I was like looking for new routes and liked the idea of dreaming something into existence.
And that was just like, because I've spoken to so many people, and for me, it was never a passion of mine to like go create a new route. There's already so many classics, and it's like especially as a newer climber, at least for me, it's like I'm already overwhelmed by trying not to die. Like, well, let's just focus on things that have been done before. Would you say that drive for route development was just like in your core, or did you have a mentor that showed you and kind of like opened that door for you?
It was just totally in my core. Like I had a backyard terrain park for snowboarding when I was growing up, and loved creating the jumps and inviting all my friends over. The like user experience side which is the career lingo I use now. But it was like, yeah, creating and sharing the canvas. And so I totally remember creating routes and then trying to get my friends to climb on them and share the experience. And even on mountain projects of like writing up the route description and making the whole cohesive experience feel a certain way. I wouldn't say good or bad, but like have a feeling and create an experience for the climber. I just really enjoy that.
I think a lot of people refer to route development as like an artistic expression or an artistic pursuit. You're a lot more on like the engineering side, I guess. Do you see those two worlds blending? Do you see them kind of like talking about the same thing? Would you lean more towards an artist in your climbing or artistry, or do you see like where's those two worlds meet?
Yeah, I use the artistry word very sparingly. I'll call myself a creative, but like kind of a logical creative. And yeah, user design. I definitely think it's heavy on design, even bolt placement of like if you're at one obvious rest hold and where the bolt is placed, plus or minus like a few inches, will guide how you're looking up the next section of the wall, what it feels like to be resting there and planning ahead. I think these subtleties make a big difference of how you flow up a route, or even like kind of hiding a bolt as it bulges over at the top and making it feel like you have to quest. I think all those things come down to how it's bolted and where the bolts are placed. So there is, especially in chassis sport climbing, there is some element of like deciding what holds stay or go. But even the bolting, even all those sorts of things, how you present it on the internet makes a big difference in what the experience is of the route. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'll go to artistry for myself.
Yeah.
But definitely a design.
Yeah. I like the focus you said on like the minuscule details, or like the bolt between like here or here and like small adjustments. That's one thing about like contracting work, or even, I mean, yesterday we hung up a shelf in my bathroom, and like, that's the one thing about doing things like that. The one thing I don't like about that is how specific you have to be. Like, to hang a shelf, it's like you got to make sure that it's exactly to the 1/4 inch spaced on both sides. And to me, I'm just like, I just want to throw it up on the wall, you know? And so that part of my brain is not as connected, but it seems like that's a huge role in design and engineering and product design, right? It's like specifications, product specifications, like everything has to have small tolerances. And if you're not so focused on those details, things won't work the way they're supposed to. And it seems like you're carrying that into like how you approach your route development and your climbing and your gear.
Yeah, I think I do end up in the experiential design side of things, and I really design by feel, where I especially saw it at Black Diamond. There's engineers that are really good at refinement and doing calculations and FEA and things like that. And I don't think I'm actually an engineer's engineer. I think product design is like the sweet spot for me, where I do go by feel. I'm kind of fast and loose in early iterations, and make decisions by intuition. So I think that's my sweet spot of like, creating the experience without overthinking it.
Yeah. So you are kind of in this weird blend between artistry and engineering.
Yeah.
You know, like trusting that intuition and trusting by feel rather than just like strictly following the numbers. That's cool. I like that. So, I mean, a great caveat to like your time at Black Diamond. I think that, you know, hearing like I worked at Black Diamond, I think that could pique a lot of people's interest in general. I think working for such a prolific company as a climber, regardless of what the position is, it could be like, man, that would be just so cool. What was your process like of applying to the job, getting hired? Like, what was that process like for you? And then we can kind of dive into like what your actual role was.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun story. I definitely got really lucky, honestly. I was living in Minnesota my entire life through college, and then I was working an engineering job outside of university for a few years at Polaris. You mentioned street bikes, so you probably know the motorsports world a little bit. I was still living in my motocross era of enjoying motorsports and working at Polaris. But then when I was 22, I was becoming more and more of a climber and less into the motorsports at the time. Was looking for something new, wanted to move west. And I was in this rotational program at Polaris while living in my van. I was on this frugality kick where I was going to minimize my overhead, live in a van, and stash as much of my engineering money as I can to buy future freedom. So anyways, I was living in my van while working full time. And one of my rotations was 6 months in rural Iowa. So like I was about as far as you could imagine from working at Black Diamond. And during during those 6 months, I'm like, something's got to give. I want to move west. I'm not on the path. And I just got lucky. A friend sent me an open application window for Black Diamond. And I was applying at other companies in Salt Lake City, applied to like a sprinkler company and random other engineering companies. And I just applied at Black Diamond just like normal. And I think the one thing I did that helped me get in the door was I had a ski trip coming up anyways. And I looked up the hiring manager on LinkedIn and was like, hey, I'm going to be in town. Can I swing by for an informational interview? So I put myself out there a little bit. And I think the real story there is what I submitted on my resume was like my unicycling achievements and like random stuff, like a portfolio of random things I built. And I think they loved that real world tinkering. And I think they're like, we should at least interview this weirdo. That'd probably be entertaining.
This guy's got some character.
Yeah. So I think that was my only chance. But I guess before I did the informational interview, it was like a 20-minute tour while I was passing through. And then I did my first formal interview with the team from the McDonald's parking lot in Iowa in my van. And I let that slip. It was like part of the shtick. And they loved it. So they're like, this guy is unique at the very least and might bring something interesting to the team. But my hiring manager, Brendan, really took a chance on me. I was 22 and I didn't have true product design experience, but was clearly a tinkerer.
And so describe your role, like what were you in charge of? And I guess what was your first project that you were kind of tasked with?
Yeah, I was on the product design team and I was a mechanical engineer. So there's industrial designers and mechanical engineers on those design teams. And the industrial designers are in charge of the aesthetics of making it look pretty. Pretty is a bad word, demeaning word. Make it look marketable, elegant, compelling. Make it look compelling. Let's use that. And then the engineers are in charge of making it work functionally. And you would kind of bounce files back and forth and prototypes and work together. But the mechanical engineers were the primary product designers. And you can imagine something like a carabiner, how it is sculpted in appearance also affects the strength. So heavily tied, where if you look at something like an iPhone, there is like a skeleton that affects how it looks. And then there's all the function hidden inside. But with carabiners, it's different. So I was in charge of mechanical engineering certain products as a product designer, but I learned a lot of skills in sculpting and user design through that as well.
How much of this was like developing new products versus improving upon older designs?
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of what we would do, maybe 2/3, was improving past designs, make it 10% lighter, improve this issue, fix this issue. Things like that was a lot of the just like product life cycle maintenance was a lot of the role. And then there was like maybe 1/3 of, hey, we want a cam that's lighter. That'd be a bad brief. But you get what's called product briefs of like, hey, Petzl's making a micro traction. We want a micro traction, but we want it to do this extra thing. And it would be like written out in words of what this product should be. And that's what you'd be given as a task. That was the fun 1/3. And then there was this off script time where you could just kind of make wacky ideas and use the company money to just like try things and see what works, what doesn't. And that's really what I enjoyed the most. Yeah, kind of like diminishing returns from my satisfaction of like not that fun to make something a new color and slightly more angular and a little bit lighter. Like the ATC guide was one of the things I worked on. I made the newer, which is old at this point, the like 2019 slight update, which you probably don't even know about because it was just like a little tweak.
The only one I saw was like the regular one, and then you had like the Alpine one, which is like thinner for thinner ropes.
Exactly. So during that generation revision, we also made it lighter, a different color, and then the holes like more angular and modern. But that's a good example of like a lot of what the time was. But when people ask me, what did I do at Black Diamond? I don't point at the ATC guide because it's kind of confusing. Like I didn't invent the thing, but there's a lot of,
You see that angle right there?
Yeah.
Like that was me.
totally.
Yeah. How much of that is business, like product, that product design pipeline, that life cycle? How much of that is just business of like, okay, we need like a MVP, a minimum viable product out. We know it's not perfect. We already have future generations of this product in mind that are going to be better, but it makes more sense for us as a business to just launch this product now, get people on board with the product, and then sell better and better versions of this product as time goes on. While the company could probably just invest another 6 months and just come out with like V4 right away. Like, is that built into the business? Is that just kind of part of like product design and launching products to the market?
That's totally part of product design. And at that point, my perspective was product is king and the product should be as good as possible. And I definitely was myopic in the design team and always advocating for like, hey, we're almost here. If we just get a few more weeks, then it'll be way better. But the reality is, at least of the old business model, is you need to sell into retail stores, fall or spring seasons. And you do have certain deadlines. So you can't just push it out by weeks or months. You're really pushing out by a year, because for a spring product, which would be climbing gear or things like that, if you miss this spring, you can't fill the pipeline until next spring. So there were a lot of harsh realities there and some Hail Marys and things like that. Like the ultralight ice screw, the green one with the flip out wire gate. That's one of the things I did. I didn't do any of the body design, but early on that was one of my early products, is they handed me this screw with a different mechanism for flipping out handle that no one liked, and it would get loose and rattly, and it was just like a failing project before product launch. And there was like a 1 month window of like, hey, do your very best. Let's see if we can pull this off. Try to fix it. And if we don't fix it, then we either like cancel it or bump it by a year. And so that's some of the higher pressure moments. And I came up with the wire gate and made prototypes by hand with pliers and things like that. And I'm like, I think this will work. There's like 85% confidence that this is going to be a good product. You just like tell that to the business team, and the higher levels make the real decision there. But from a design perspective, yeah, that's what it felt like. It was like, we did take chances. And usually, well, it was definitely not in the structural elements. For safety elements, they do go through like mandatory testing. But for like mechanism and feature elements, there's definitely an element of, or there's definitely a part where you're launching the best thing you can in that time frame and then making improvements.
Yeah, upon the product. Yeah, it seems like that example with the ultralight ice screw might have also come into the larger cam handle. What do you call them?
Trigger keepers?
Trigger keepers.
Yeah, I was on a wire gate kick. It's on a wire gate kick.
Brent's holding up the number 5, the big perp, and it's got the trigger keeper wires. I read that you invented that specifically?
Yes. So this is a great story to better explain how it works and how the product design process works, where this is the one thing when people ask me what I did at Black Diamond, this is what I'll point to of like, oh, I designed this trigger keeper. This is like the one thing people
Yeah, I mean, I remember when it came out, I was like, damn, that is sick. You know, it's like such a simple thing, but so cool.
But I didn't actually do the sculpting of this final product, but I came up with the concept. So I was like the old-timey tinkerer inventor who like made the concept work. And then Jeremy Steck and the CAM team did the hard work, the refinement that I actually not the best at. They did all the hard work to make it come into existence.
So what were the gaps between your like functional idea and the final product? Was it like, where were the functional gaps?
Yeah, maybe I can send you a photo for the
That would be cool.
video. What I did is I was out climbing this new route in Zion. This was 2017. So yeah, 4 years into my climbing, trying to put up new routes. And it had this crazy pitch where you tunneled into the mountain, basically. It was like number sixes between you and the outside of the cliff. And you're like chimneying, chimneying around this pinch, coming out, and then doing this like number sixes layback. Like kind of a stout, weird 511 pitch. And for the chimney part, these things just are boat anchors and you're just dragging them up. And yeah, I feel like so much of my design is just solving for my own annoyances. And I'm like, there's sticks people do, or some people put sticks through the cam lobes, but you can't mid 511 pitch, like extract the stick and like place it and keep going. And it was one where I really had just an aha moment on a Monday where I got back from my weekend trip, was at my desk and just like staring at cams and looking through my junk drawer of random gadgets. So like, there's got to be something here that's simple. And I had some plastic keychain carabiners at my desk and I was holding them up and like imagining what it might look like. And then I just took 2 of them down. It really was like a cool aha moment, which is why I point to it. Took 2 carabiners down to the lab, to the little chop shop engineering corner, and I just cut them up and I glued and screwed them on so that the nose of the plastic carabiner was here, and then the hinge of the plastic carabiner was here, and put one on each side. And I made the exact same function in like 1 hour of modifying my cams. And then I took it out the next week, same route. I was like, wow, this is awesome. I think this is the answer. It just happened that around that same time, there was already a plan to revive or to revise the C4 cams and make them that 10% lighter, new colorways, slightly modernized. So they already had that project planned, but they didn't have like a technological improvement. And I completely unplanned, unscripted, came up with this interesting improvement and like handed my prototype to that team. I was like, we got to do this on the big cams. And that's how this came about. And again, they did all the hard work of figuring out the wire specs and how do you mold these features into these existing parts. But I definitely came up with the concept on that one. So that's the fun one to point to.
How did you guys decide which cams got it and which didn't? Like, there's a clear line right at the 4. Like, why didn't the 3 make it?
Even the 4 was like arguably not worth it, but it shares the same trigger keeper. So these are just engineering realities and even product cost realities. It has a shared part for the 4 and 5, maybe the 6. So it's like if you already have these whole features on the trigger bar for the 4, why not include it? It would look weird with empty holes. And then the 3 is just not big enough to matter. So those are more the judgment call, more like the judgment call user experience decisions that you have to make as a product designer. But again, that's kind of like where engineering and product design can diverge, where the engineer is like, well, less hooky is better. So like, let's make them all less hooky. Yeah.
Nice. That's a cool story. I love that. Yeah. Like I said, I remember seeing that functionality and just like, it's unique and different enough where you're just like, wow, that is cool. That's like exactly what we need for these big cams. Does Black Diamond have like a incentive structure? Like in the automotive industry for salespeople, you have like spiffs, like, at least for the automotive industry, it's like for today, if you sell X amount of cars, you get, $100 per car extra. It's like an incentive. Like, do you guys have incentives to be a tinkerer, to come up with new visionary things? Like, cause I could imagine, I don't know, like there's always lazy people in the world and it's like, you get a job. I guess if you're lazy long enough, you just get fired. There's no incentive programs for like, come up with something new and super exciting and you get like a bonus or something like that.
No. And that kind of plays into why I ended up leaving, is I felt like a really valuable member of the team. If anything, I was lazy on the on the refinement side of I really liked the first part of the product, the first part of the project, and then my interest would maybe fade in like the final 1% improvements. I'm like, it's pretty good.
You're like, what's the next one?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I feel like I brought some real interesting improvements to the products. But no, you just paid a salary. Even names on patents don't even mean anything monetarily. You just
Names on patents. Do you as the designers get names on patents for things that you come up with?
yeah. So I'm on a few patents. Whether you could even just be like perfectly part of the team and have your name on the patent, but they kind of just do it as a favor for your career and your resume. But it doesn't actually. It's owned by the company, and you don't get any compensation. At least at Black Diamond, there's no like innovation bonus. Yeah. Now, which would have been cool as a business owner now. I'm like, yeah, that's what you should encourage. So it's funny. I had, that myopic design team lens, and I was like completely detached from the business realities. And now I'm definitely on the other side of like being an entrepreneur and understanding, the realities of, is this good enough?
Let's talk about the Z4. Let's push the purple cam in a little bit since off camera. So I love these cams. They are by far my favorite cam. A lot of people kind of like talk down on the micro versions, like the 0.1, 0.0, 0.2, but they're like, oh, the triggers are squishy. I love them. What was significant about this cam? What was like obviously lighter? There's other things, I think, like the dual stem. Talk to me about like the significance of the Z4.
Yeah, this is another one where I can point out of like, I helped improve this cam, and my name's on the patent for the Z4, but I wasn't on the engineering team that did all the hard work. Jeremy Steck and Garrett Harmson did all the hard work, and they really made this thing come to life. But I was part of the original cubicle brainstorm of like, hey, how do we make small cams better? And we had a team discussion with athletes, and some of the athletes were like, oh, the C3s are better than all the small cam. A lot of the athletes were like, the C3s are the best small cams. And then a lot of athletes were like, the X4s are the best small cams. And it was like almost evenly split. And it was extremely divisive. And there were pros and cons that were really clear for both. And we kind of were digesting this in our cubicle, kind of like office space style. It's like a quadrant of 4 cubicles, and you just turn all your chairs inward, and you're just kind of riffing. Some of my favorite parts of working there.
Was the goal to sunset both the X4 and the C3 and then come up with this new version?
Yeah, to give like a high level view of what a project like that looks like, at least at that time at Black Diamond, there's like a 2-year product development cycle that's put on the calendar of like, we want a new small cam, and it should be better than the previous small cams. And sometimes that's all the category manager is able to say, is like, it's just got to be better. Like, we'll kind of learn about what better means along the way. But yeah, it's silly to have these 2 different versions. Let's make one that's better than both. That was the pitch. And of that 2-year cycle, I might be getting these details a little bit wrong. This is the gist, is like a year of it is development. And that's from ideation, early prototyping, commit to a design path, get it up to ready for production. And that's kind of like all spread out throughout that year. And then there's a second year of kind of like test production runs. You need sales samples to physically take to trade shows and to dealers to get them to buy your stuff. And then after you have these orders, or at least have confidence and commitment, then you need to like place production orders with the factories, and the factories can still take months. So it's like quite a long time frame. But back to the pitch was to make a better small cam. And we had we had really clear pros and cons for both the C3 and X4. And what it really came down to is there's different needs for placing the cam and when it's placed. So when you're placing it, you want it to be really stiff. You want it to be like a wire, a stopper that you can like slot into place. And especially with the small cams, is like I always just place them like super tight, kind of like a passive placement, and it's safer, more secure. So you want it to be stiff so you can slot it. But then once it's placed, you want it to be flexible so that it doesn't walk. And the C3s were stiff for placing, but they would walk and be kind of sketchy if you like kicked them or had some rope drag, where the X4s and Alien style design were extremely flexible. And that was actually kind of annoying to place. You'd have to like wiggle it into place. And then cleaning, especially as if it like kinked sideways, you didn't have leverage. You didn't have leverage to like extract it. So we were just like riffing in our quadrant about what it might be to solve this issue. And we were inspired by those kids' toys that are like beads on a string, where they're all loose until you pull the string, and then it's like a stiff bar. I don't know if you can visualize this. I don't know what they're called.
I'm visualizing it, but I don't have like a concrete memory of this.
Yeah, maybe there's a visual there, but basically it's like, how do you achieve both? And for this project, I was part of the fun ideation phase, and I helped 3D print some prototypes and draw some napkin sketches of like, hey, this might work. And we spent like a month trying different ideas, and then I wasn't involved at all. So maybe some false credit there of like, I helped come up with the idea of what it should be and drew some napkin sketches that were relevant, but I didn't do any of the hard work.
Yeah, I don't need to give you full credit for the Z4.
Yeah, credit to Jeremy and Garrett.
Yeah.
Which is nice to explain that long form of like, yeah, people want the answer of like, this is what I did at Black Diamond. But the reality is, as a team, it's a team effort. And what I was good at, the shadow of my strength was early tinkering, kind of like old-timey inventor, just like working away in a little shop. But I wasn't that great at the refinement and like the final design.
No, it's cool though. I love the breakdown. I never actually thought about the cam as two different, like front and back.
It works.
And that like blew my mind there. Cause if you look at it, you like can literally see that there's, oh, whoa, it's flexible when you do that again.
So this,
no way. You're blowing my mind
like,
right
look
now.
how stiff that is.
Wow.
And then once it's placed, it's flexible.
So why is that?
It's a little bit about this zone being isolated, but it's mostly about these 4 wires in tension that create like they create a width where there's the center wires in compression, and these tension wires are wider.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now I know why I love them so much. You know, it's like just a feel. It's a user experience, and you're like, dude, I don't know. I can't, like so many times I've heard people describe like, I don't know why, but I love these. I think that's why.
Yeah, it's like the 7.5 size. Even you like can feel how easy it is to slot it and place it exactly where you want it. And that's something that's a little tidbit for trad climbers is people talk about the camming zone, and some old cams even had green zones in the middle, but then they're like, don't place it tight. Tight is better as long as you can clean it.
So that's what everyone's like, for people who talk shit on some of my videos, like, that was overcammed. I'm like, it's only overcammed if it doesn't come out.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Overcamming is a myth besides your partner's experience. But the fact that this is stiff when you pull the trigger means you can extract it surgically as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just like placing is, as long as you can pull the trigger all the way and there's just like a few millimeters of looseness, you can pull it out super easily. So tight is better for small cams especially.
Cool. Sweet. That was awesome.
Fun one.
That was super cool. I didn't even know what I was about to walk myself into with that cam. So.
And then you're really teasing me here with this floppy
We'll get into that one
carabiner
a little later. We'll get into that one later.
trying to trigger me.
Yeah. You push it forward a little bit more. Cool. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit more about the team at Black Diamond. We don't have to go into this too much, but like you're working with, like you've been talking about, you're working with a team. You've referenced, I think, 2 people twice now. What are their names again? Okay. Like what did you learn from working in that environment with these people in a climbing specific like place? Like what was the best part about it?
Yeah, it's nice to be able to explain this long form because I feel like I've done that bit of like, oh, I designed the trigger keeper over and over. But the design team for climbing hard goods, so cams, blade devices, carabiners, was like 4 of us. Kind of some floating names, but there was Alex Baker as well and Pete Compert. And yeah, you sit in this quadrant and you're in your cubicles. It's kind of a funny juxtaposition of this like office space element that we are just like on our computers in cubicles.
It's like a sitcom situation.
Yeah. But then a quadrant, and it was really fun. There was like moments where we literally just all turn our chairs inwards and are just kind of bullshitting, riffing on ideas. And those were the special moments for sure. Yeah, it was really special working with such talented other engineers. Like I mentioned, my sweet spot is just this like one phase of the product development process, and I learned so much else about the whole journey of bringing a product to life. So if you ask about what I learned, it definitely would be how to take an idea and commercialize it and bring it to market, which is, yeah. So if you're looking at that 2-year product development calendar, my specialty was like the first 6 to 8 weeks. That was my sweet spot. And it was kind of what I was doing my entire life back as a high schooler in my garage. I would make these cool things and be like, oh, it would be cool to bring that to life. Yeah, we're getting tangential, but I made these like snow bike things that were awesome, like a bike frame on snowboards. And I was ripping up my backyard, doing all kinds of cool tricks. And I had the dream of bringing that to life as a product. No idea how that would work. That was just like, I nailed the first 6 weeks of that 2-year calendar. And I learned about all those other months of what it takes to bring a product to life. So I think that was like the true education I got at Black Diamond. But the secret sauce that I really enjoyed was the fun kind of off-script moments with the really talented team. And that's what I missed the most, is I left a little kind of over it. But in retrospect, and the feelings for the years afterwards was, wow, that was a really special team of talented individuals that were super passionate about climbing, and what a dream job. It was great.
What were the circumstances of your exit? I know COVID had a lot to do with it. Talk to me about kind of like what that transition in your life was like.
Yeah, I think it's just a reality of engineering that it's kind of full-time or bust. And my idea of career development was to scrap it while I was young. I did live in my van for 5 years, mostly in the BD parking lot, and trying to be frugal, trying to buy my future runway. And what that meant in a career sense is that I wanted more unpaid time off. So I kind of pitched, maybe it was bad timing. It was COVID, but it also was like a lull in product development. I had pitched, hey, I want 80% time for 80% pay, basically just more unpaid time off. And I thought it was a super fair ask. And it really backfired. It took away a lot of the gray area freedom. I already was kind of doing some unpaid time off the books with my team, my managers. And by the time the direct ask had to go up through the CFO, CEO type people, which Black Diamond is a public company. So these were just like industry folks.
Are the CEO, CFO, industry people, are these people outdoor athletes and climbers, or are they completely removed from all of that?
Definitely not.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, certainly not athletes. They would maybe fancy themselves as outdoorsmen of
Okay. Yeah.
they've,
I've made a campfire.
yeah, exactly. But no, these are just like retail brand industry people. And by industry people, I don't even mean climbing industry, just outdoor things.
Isn't that so frustrating, man? Like even in you go industry, you go political, like the people who are ultimately making the large macro decisions that affect our day-to-day as climbers aren't like real passionate outdoor people who live it every day. And that it's like such an injustice in my eyes.
Yeah, it was pretty frustrating. So I did leave disgruntled for sure. I won't throw too much shade at Black Diamond, but yeah, I really enjoyed the 5-ish years I had there. I look back fondly, but in the end, I'm glad I was like pushed away and had to go out on my own, which from the get-go, I knew that I had maybe a 10-year time horizon as a full-time engineer, but I've always been entrepreneurial. I always wanted to work for myself and just kind of live a free-form life on my own terms. So that was the vision, and I made it 7 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good run. Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Livezen Designs. Over the last 9 months, I have really put Livezen's clothes to the test. I have climbed over 150 pitches in their clothing. Routes like the Nose, Voyager, Rostrum, and the OG route on Rainbow Wall. And after thousands of feet of climbing, I can say one thing for sure. Liveson's clothes are built to last. The nose in particular was pretty hard on the fabric, including blood, sweat, and days of continuous effort. And I pulled them out of the wash when I came home to find my pack shirt and EcoTrek trail pants to be pretty much brand new. Stain-free, rip-free, and tear-free. But probably the most impressive thing to me about Liveson's clothing is how versatile it is. I literally took the same clothes I wore on El Cap out of the wash, put them on, and went to work. In my opinion, they are the perfect blend of style, comfort, versatility, and durability. Liveson makes apparel for the entire lifestyle of a climber. Plus, Liveson has an in-house repair program. So if you do tear, rip, or if your clothes fall apart in any way, you can just send them into Liveson and they'll take care of the rest. And if you're worried about fit or just simply not liking their clothes, they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you can buy it, try it, and if you still don't like it, they'll just give you your money back. Right now, you can get 15% off your next order at Liveson by using the link in the description below and code TCM15 at checkout. That's the link right there in the description and code TCM15 at checkout. And remember, every dollar spent at Liveson is a dollar spent supporting this podcast. After you quit Black Diamond, you were climbing full time. And you've kind of picked up a pretty killer resume during that time, and also while you were in Black Diamond as well. Just to list off some of these, we got a rope solo NIAD in August of 2018, Golden Gate on El Cap, ground up in 2019. You Onsight of Ecstasy in March of 2020, El Corazon ground up 2022, unsupported team freerider in a day 2022, El Nino on 2023, and Sendero Luminoso in 2024. So, I mean, I'm sure that's just like scratching the surface of, what you've actually done, but those are like some of the highlights. I'm sure a lot of people recognize those climbs. I want to take time to like dive into just a couple of these stories and kind of like unpack them. But before we do that, I want to explore kind of like the climber that you are, unpack yourself as a climber. I think the first one that comes to mind, and I think this is a somewhat played out topic, but I think it's unique in your situation, is just like risk management and risk philosophy. So, you told me in our meet and greet that you had no close calls, no injuries in your climbing career. And for someone who's like known to climb like hard trad R routes, I feel like is quite an accomplishment. For someone who's gone through an injury myself, for my own reasons, everybody knows what those are. Like how much of the fact that you haven't gotten injured, how much of that is like luck, systems, or just baked into this risk aversion that you acquired during your time in motocross? Because I know you like broke tons of bones, like lots of injuries. Did that color your risk management when you went into climbing?
Yeah. Maybe the one caveat there first is like I've had some close calls with rockfall, and even on trade routes, I think those were just purely luck. But I think things like unprotected climbing falls and not having the right gear or rope errors, rappelling errors, all those things definitely come down to trying to have preventative systems. And yeah, I think you're right. I think there's something there where I did do my years in the action sports, extreme sports world where you expect to break something every year. And it was just part of the game. Is you would probably break an arm, break a leg at some point during your motocross season. And that got really old. It's not that fun and it really hurts. It's really expensive. And I think when I got into my maturing years as a early adult, 18 to early 20s, I'm like, I don't really want to live that life anymore. And being on my own, supporting myself and needing to work, it just made a lot less sense than when you're 15 and you break a leg, you can just sit on the couch and play video games for your summer break and it's okay. But a lot less appealing. So I have done some hard trad routes that have marginal gear. And I've also done stuff on El Cap where you do have to, you have mandatory unprotected climbing sections for sure. Like freestyle seems so binary of like, do I have a rope on or not? But on El Cap, there's like definitely no fall times. For El Cap free climbing, that is, you're on like weird aid routes that just don't have the gear unless you have hammers and pins. But I think I've always approached it from a pretty conservative standpoint, even though I have like some of the ticks that seem like I'm going for it, is almost always I'm finding extra gear that people previous ascents weren't using, or I do rehearse it on top rope enough beforehand that I'm like really conservative in going for it. So I think elements like that. But I think mostly just sort of like, I'd rather just be strong enough to put more gear in.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like the best way to approach risk is to be aware of it in the first place. And I think we were just blatantly aware of the risk and its consequences. I think that's like at least the pitfall for a lot of beginner trad climbers. It's like, if you haven't been injured, you've never broken a bone before, just filled with stoke, you're like, the reality of the consequences lying on the other side just don't really hit you that hard until you have to pay the consequence.
Yeah, I think the lifetime of committing to gap jumps on my bicycle and my dirt bike is like, I know what it's like to size up something, decide if you're good enough, and commit or not.
You also know what it's like to fall from the air and hit the ground.
Yeah. So it's like, I think it's that commitment factor and being realistic with my abilities. And sure, I've had moments that have been terrified, and but yeah, thankfully I've avoided any close calls. There's even one specific example that's fun to point to is I did this route in northern Arizona, got the second ascent of this 13 C or D trad route, and I made a video with my friends, and I'm placing hand placing beaks to protect the crux, where you like kind of run out. I placed a beak, another beak, and then this shallow stopper, and then you do this like V8 sort of face boulder crux. Pretty exciting for sure, and it looks really dramatic on camera. But what you don't know is the first ascensionists only placed the stopper.
Wow.
So the beaks are really dramatic, but those are actually the like extra redundancy in the system that made it feel reasonable, where I wouldn't have climbed the route on just the little brassy, like 2 little brassies that he used. So that was one where I'm like, I'm not willing to sign up for the risk that the first ascensionist took, and I would just be like happy with the top rope lap or get creative.
I think there's like so much of, like, you could have easily just accepted like, oh, that's the risk of this climb. You know, I love that you have this other lens of like, how can I make it safer? A great caveat to this quote. You said, like, I think all the Yosemite risk taking is dumb. There are other ways to be fast, or there are other ways to climb. This is a good example. It's like, it's so easy to just accept things the way they are. And it's so cool to have that visionary mindset of just like questioning the status quo and for your own safety. It's like, how can I do this in a different way? So specifically towards the Yosemite risk taking, like, when did you first come to realize this phenomenon that's going on? What was your immediate reaction? And did you like have any sort of temptation to accept the status quo, or was it immediately just like, you guys are crazy, like there's other ways to do this? What was that experience like?
Yeah. I won't give you back the quote. That's your clickbait quote you're fishing for. But I think it can be foolish. I'll use that word. And I just wasn't that impressed, honestly, of like the hanging it out. A simple way to say it is, if you're going to try to do the 2-hour nose speed record, yes, you are taking obscene risks, and you are signing up for that feat. If you're doing an 8-hour nose speed run, which is incredibly fast, I don't think you need to free solo. I don't think you need to run it out more than 30 to 40 feet, having never done an 8-hour nose. But I've done things like that, and I'm close enough to the scene to see what people are doing. So I think the cool guy Yosemite 8 to 12 hour, I'm going to do the nose with no headlamp crowd, really take the risks that Alex and Tommy are taking for the record, and thinking they're cool for doing that as like the vibe I get from being around it. And I just think that's foolish, and don't think the risk for risk's sake is that cool. I'm using the cool world a bunch, but is that admirable? I don't know. It just doesn't impress me, where I'm way more impressed by creative problem solving. And like short fixing. When you short fix for speed tactics, are you familiar? Maybe I'll explain it. You just aid climb to pitch, or you French free to pitch on the nose. And for speed tactics, you want to get a head start while your partner is jugging that pitch, because you don't need to belay them. They're just jugging, cleaning it. So you pull up a bunch of rope, maybe 30 to 50 feet and get a head start on the next pitch while they're jugging before they put you on belay. And you can either free solo with a 50-foot PAS, or you can take a gree-gree, flip it upside down, do this little micro traction trick, and lead rope solo, the head start, maybe like at 75 to 80% the speed. And it's like, yeah, again, 2-hour pace, no, you can't do that. 8-hour pace, sure, yeah, why not? It's like you can just be a little more creative. Yeah, so I've always tried to solve the risk problem with systems and thinking ahead, and yeah, problem solving at home on paper.
People taking on, like you quoted, the obscene amount of risk, they're not trying to beat Tommy Caldwell and Alex Honnold's speed record. So do you think it's like there's a machoism in there, where like I think there's also in the aid realm, there's like daisy soloing,
Yeah.
like daisy soloing speed records. Like what's the push there? Do you think that's just what's capturing the media's attention and that's what's marketable now? And so people are like pushed to do that so they can try to get their name out? Or is it isolated in the communities that are in the valley and they're like, you know, beating their chest about it? Or
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of the valley machoism. I think there's a little bit of climbing can be more of an extreme sport than we acknowledge. Like I see it in the motocross world, you sign up for those broken bones, you sign up for this like extreme risk taking. And in climbing, we're generally not taking risks. And yeah, I explained that I'm over that aspect, but I think it's in climbing and speed records for sure. I think people like that feeling. So good on them. Like just know you're doing that. You're playing that game. But it being celebrated is like a cool thing is what I'm just like personally a little unimpressed by. When there's clear alternatives that could have accomplished the same thing. Yeah, culturally, I don't know. And I will say that in 2017, 2018, I was in the valley and present during some significant accidents and just thinking
related to taking these specific risks?
Yeah, like 2 LCAP speed climbing accidents. One person getting paralyzed, and I was like across the valley, watched the whole rescue and learned about it afterwards while I was on a wall. And then another one where it was like 2 well-known climbers that fell to their death, and like I was there watching a different thing and like saw the occurrence happen. Yeah, so those are formative years as well in my climbing of being in like mid-20s. And now that I think about it, like those are stories I don't think about very often, and really painful feelings around climbing and like tough months afterwards. And I think those also shifted the reality of like
Did you know the people?
I was just a bystander scenarios, but in the community knew like knew these people were kind of playing the similar game to what I looked up to. So those are certainly formative reality checks.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's hard to like the risk taking seems to be more clickbaity, at least when we're talking about like dilution of information towards like the masses through social media or through media in general. And whether we like it or not, I think that media is very influential to our own process of like what should we do when we're trying to be a better climber. And I think that it's changing a little bit, but I still think there's that element of like, if you want to be a good climber, you have to take on more risk. And that's definitely glorified. I mean, especially with Alex Honnold and free soloing. And it's refreshing to hear. And it's not everywhere. Like I speak to so many climbers that, you know, I ask the question, like, are you a taker or a faller? And obviously it's extremely circumstantial, but I think that there's a lot of push to be like, you have to fall all the time. Otherwise you're not pushing yourself. And it's like, it's way more nuanced than that, you know, like, yeah, sure, falls are okay, but like there's a time and place for it. And so it's just like weird, or it's just important to bring that narrative, I think, to more people so that people understand. It's like, yeah, climbing is dangerous. It's like, come up with your own risk management and just make sure you can climb for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you understand what you're taking on. I think the solo NIAD is one I'm proud of for the fact that I did 0 free soloing. At least at the time, I think it was one of the faster times of just like no Like I just like had a normal amount of protection the whole time. And there's risks of being tired and unclipping the wrong thing and having an accident. But in terms of managing all the risks that I could, I didn't. I was roped up the whole time. Where so many of the solo El Cap in a day ascents, they're like, oh, I could at least like walk across this ledge without a rope. Like that little step of difficulty, like I probably could do that without a rope. Maybe this 5/8 hand crack, I'll just like do this one pitch without a rope. And I was like, I'm just gonna rope pitch it out and like stay connected the whole time and see how fast I can do that with just lots of planning ahead.
So, I mean, let's dive more into that specific ascent. Um, like, I guess just tell me like the story. You said it was like one of the most formative experiences for you as a climber. Like, what kind of climber were you when you like started to think about that objective?
Yeah, that was 2018. So I was 24 at the time. And I was an aspiring trad climber, aspiring Yosemite climber, but I worked full time in a cubicle at Black Diamond. So I was climbing a lot in Little Cottonwood and trying to work through the harder trad routes there. And yeah, honestly, I was driven a little more by wanting to be relevant in the community, wanting to do things that seemed cool. And I think that was an empowering personal breakthrough because I felt like I did something that was like at the level of elite. And it was adding my name to the list of climbers that I admired. There was a Mason Earl blog post, and he was someone I really looked up to as a climber, look up to as a creator, especially. He's, yeah, as a creative approach to climbing, I think he brought like a really unique perspective. But he and maybe like 10 others at the time, I don't even know, of kind of all the who's who of Yosemite climbing had done this thing. And I had done a nose in a day with a partner where I was short fixing like entire pitches at some points because I was like good at the short fixing I was just describing of like short fixing with the solo belay, no problem, can do it really fast. And I was like, I wonder if I could do this alone. Not to spite this partner, but just to have this like totally different experience. And it was my secret little plan. I told like just a few other people, wasn't brave enough to claim it ahead of time and even like tell people I was going to try. But I had done some practice runs in Little Cottonwood on multi-pitch routes. And I was like, I think I could do this. And I did it on a 3-day weekend, 1 day of work off, drove out alone. And I did it in the summer right after a fire closure, which is relevant because I was the only one on the nose. There was one other party on the Zodiac way around the way, but I was like truly solo on the nose, which was amazing. No other people. So I think it was formative because it felt like this thing that I wasn't sure I could do. Sense of adventure, sense of whatever personal empowerment, accomplishment. But then a bit of it feeling like, oh, I'm like at this elite level and feel relevant, which felt really important at that age, to be honest, and being like 24 and trying to cut my teeth and be a part of the community.
How are you? So you're climbing up, wrapping back down, cleaning your gear, jogging back up. How are you doing that on the long traverses, like the Lynn Hill Traverse? Like, how are you back cleaning that entire pitch? That is like straight sideways.
Yeah, you kind of have to like reverse aid basically. So it's like a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah, you do whatever you can. When rope soloing, yeah, to be clear, is you climb the pitch, you fix the rope, you rappel down, grab your bag of supplies, and then you jug up and you clean your gear, and then you stack the rope and do it again. So you cover the terrain a bunch of times. And yeah, to your point on the nose traverses, you can't just
Lower back down.
gree zip down the line. You have to like kind of reverse aid shenanigans.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun. That's a good puzzle.
I'm sure you're tempted to just like swing all the way back to the other belay at some points. You're like, go for the ride. Yeah. You had called it a spiritual experience. That was something that you had said about this climb. You seem like a pretty pragmatic guy.
Yeah.
What does like spiritual mean to you in this context?
Yeah, I don't know when I said that word. Probably because you were fishing for like
I fished for it a
spiritual
little
as the
bit.
keyword.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think empowering and a sense of like deep solitude and a sense of this feels like something humans aren't meant to do. Of like we're kind of like going against our nature here and doing this unique thing with our minds as much as with our bodies. Yeah, I think in that sense, I remember, topping out the last pitches because I climbed it through the night, which I think is a good strategy. Is I topped out at like 11 a.m. So I got the glory of the headwall pitches in the sun, like first sunlight. I took off my shirt and it's like pretty hot, and it was just like doing this overhung boat ladder at the top, looking across the wall. I was like taking moments to like take in what I was doing. I wasn't just racing the clock. Like, wow, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, we just did the nose like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
It was my first time ever going up it. We did it
Nice.
like we like fixed the sickle, wrapped back down, hauled our bags, wrapped back down, slept in the car, woke up the next day. There were two other parties. We let them go. We started sickle at like 1, got to Dolt, then from Dolt to Camp 4, and then Camp 4 to the top. But I unfortunately led the last headwall pitches in the dark. And so I didn't get to see the exposure. I think the last like spick of exposure we had was like a pitch or two after changing corners.
Oh man, yeah, it's kind of anticlimactic.
I know.
I'm leaving some contrarian nuggets along the way, but I think one of them is when I'm doing the in a day LCAP things that are often like 18 to 20 hours. I like to start like at sunset, the first shade, climb through the night down low, and then get the second wind and glory of morning light at the top.
Nice.
Yeah, which is probably worse from a sleep standpoint because you like pretend to nap during the day right before, but you're probably not sleeping very well before your big day anyways. Yeah, was that formative for you? Do you feel?
Yeah, no. So I describe it like it changed what the word climbing means to me. Primarily because I'm a free climber. I love free climbing. I love the movement of free climbing, and that was like my first real aid climb. And so just like the whole thing felt like an adult jungle gym, like the swinging around, the standing in ladders, the pulling on gear. It's like, it didn't even feel like climbing to me. It was something entirely different. And so, yeah, the whole experience, like it was like 4 full days of like effort. And it just all felt like one day, one experience. But we're going back in October for NIAD. That was like the main goal, was to, because my buddy Bryce had done it before 2 years ago. And so it was our turn to do it together. And then we're going to go back in October and do NIAD.
What time are you going to start?
I don't know. You just like piqued it in interest. And I think that'll also keep you from running into other NIAD parties. It'll keep you from running into like nose in a day parties, nose parties that are actually like moving. Because that was a big thing. I think 3 NIAD parties passed us on the Kingswing. And there were other two like nose aid parties above us. And so it was just a huge log jam. And so that tactic would completely remove that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's worth thinking about. It is harder for sleeping because you're up for like 36 to 48 hours, but it's kind of what you're signing up for regardless.
I wonder, like, where could you sleep during the day? Like stay at the Awani and just like black out the curtains and take a sleeping pill?
Yeah. There's probably a play there somewhere.
So one thing you said, about this one, you kind of said, I guess I'll link this other quote that you have about like performance. Like the coolest aspect of climbing to me is the improbability of it all, whether it's improbable moves, improbable positions. Like expand on this for me. Like this was a part of the nose experience for you. I think a lot of people will how do you function when you're doing something that feels impossible or improbable? I think that like, where does your mind go? How are you processing the uncertainty and that cliff of just like, I don't know how this is going to go. Cause I think a lot of people, I would imagine, kind of stop there, because I only did the nose because I knew it was possible. Like my buddy Bryce had done it. I'm not stepping off into this void of like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, to a sense, but not to the extreme. Where does your mind go on those things, and why do you crave that experience so much?
Yeah, I think I just like the puzzle aspect of, like I mentioned, it feels like something that we shouldn't be capable of as our human bodies that are actually not that great at climbing. Um, but with our minds and solving these puzzles, um, like the solo NIAD is not just about toiling and suffering and making your way to the top. It's about toiling at the correct task and making sure that you're making progress. And yeah, it's all in the puzzle of it for me. And that comes down to like the improbability of solving first ascent sequences or even just a project that exists, solving it for yourself. As I think performance in the mental puzzle is really heavily tied for me. And I think the improbability word probably points at both of those, of like some of it's crimping harder, which is all the rage. Some of it's just like thinking outside of the box and being creative.
Logistics.
Yeah, logistics or sequences or gear. Yeah, it kind of like ties it all together for me.
Yeah. One of the things I loved about the nose was like just how important efficiency was. It's just like every second you waste is just adds up faster and faster. And I live my life just like always trying to find efficient systems and like how can I get this task done the quickest, but still have the same like good result. And that was like such an applicable thing on the nose.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like time is a super obvious one, but then also energy is like you really do have a limited amount of energy up there. So like if you're hauling a bag or like moving anchors around, making sure you're at like a good ergonomic position makes a big difference if you do that 30 times well versus like one bad haul setup or awkward anchor and you like waste a bunch of effort fighting that. It can really like derail and snowball the rest of your ascent. So yeah, I really like the puzzle of thinking of it holistically and thinking beyond what the status quo is, and not just like in innovating carabiners and ropes of just like, oh, if you did this thing this way, if you can do it better, different, whatever.
I'm sure you do that in like everyday life too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a schemer.
Yeah. One thing, this is, I guess, just like a personal question in terms of my own processes. But when this is the first time I was ever hauling. Some people are just like pulling the slack out of the gree like this. Hated that. I thought it was the worst thing ever because like your shoulders getting tired. I redirect the line through just a carabiner and I pull the slack like 2-to-1 through that. And then I found that to be so easy. And I could just like pull because I'm pulling the same amount, but my pulling the slack in is easier. And so I'm like pulling my hips and my body closer to the wall with 2 hands rather than 1. And I'm also pulling in the slack simultaneously. Is that something that you've seen done before?
Yeah, that's spot on. That's
Okay.
like exactly the like being vigilant of like, as soon as you feel like one motion, you're like, ooh, that didn't feel good. Yeah. And being really picky of like, sure, you can do that once, but like doing that hundreds of times while you're hauling, like this is going to be a waste of effort. And being vigilant, that's like a perfect mindset of like, pause, like let's think about this. Let's do it slightly different. How can we fix this? And might seem slower to be thoughtful and critical, make changes. But then, yeah, that saved you so much time on the ascent just by having fresher arms for the climbing itself, for jugging, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Bryce, my buddy Bryce is like, that's not how you do it. I'm like,
that's how you do it.
That's how I want to do it.
Yeah,
cool.
Totally. I do a foot hauling setup. I don't 1-to-1 haul my bags very often. I tend to go like day style with like a little tag bag or like stupidly heavy 2-to-1, 8-day ascents, tend towards the extremes. But while foot hauling, I do a similar thing where it's like a micro traction redirected down to a second micro traction with a foot loop. But then I redirect back up to just a carabiner to make the resetting. This is the free side of the tagline. And you're resetting it for the same way you're talking about and having it right here versus like down here or upwards. It's like the exact same ergonomics.
Yeah.
So,
okay, cool.
Yeah. Props.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. The FRIAD in a day one also is interesting from systems. It kind of gets into like professional climbing and style and this and that. But in a day, El Capicense to me was always you're walking up with all your supplies, like the NIAD standard, and you start at the bottom, you climb to the top, you get off, and you're done. And the professional climber in a day free ascent is often, I prepared for a week, even like did the route almost all the way, rappelled, whatever, and then even left stuff on the route, prepared, stashed, whatever, and then um, did my little 1 day cohesive red point, but it wasn't like a 1 day effort. And that was one in my mind where I'm like, I think there's a cool style here, which some people have done this, but the list is small and no one talks about it, of 2 partners walking up to the base and free climbing El Cap in a day, just like you would go up to Red Rocks and like climb a multi-pitch route. Like you walk up, ropes, gear, water, start at the bottom, climb to the top, send, hopefully, and then walk off and you're done. And that was like your in a day effort, which I had been on the route. Amity, my partner, Amity Warm, has been on the route, and but we didn't rappel in, we didn't stash anything. It was unsupported, as I like to call it. And I think one of the places in the community I try to hold is being like a little bit contrarian, a little bit poking at the current standard. Danger is one of them. Another one's just like precision of vocabulary, and yeah, that one's meaningful to me because it wasn't to prove a point, but in my mind, I saw this like vision of, oh, what would it look like if you just like went multi-pitch climbing with all your annoying stuff? And yes, like it's the hard way and it's like less flowy, but it's the reality of like what every person's climbing experience looks like. It's not the professional climber having
a week to put this thing down.
Time, and then also resources. Like often they get support, have somebody jugging behind them, so they're just only climbing, which is an amazing athletic feat, but it's kind of like abstracted from this normal every person's multi-pitch climbing experience. So I thought that one was a really interesting ascent.
Now that's like ground up. That's like where you kind of interject that word to describe that. And also, so I want to talk a little bit more about
precision of vocabulary.
Exactly. So I think this is part of one of my questions. So a lot of your major ascents have like this ground up tag to it. I've heard some people call this an ethic. I've heard some people call it a style, and I've heard other people just like, my vocabulary is missing here, but like passionately fight the fact that it's called an ethic. Like ground up is not an ethic, you know? Where do you stand on what this word means to you? And ethics, style, what is it?
Yeah, exactly. I have some good thoughts here. And I feel like as a community, we're like zeroing in on something where Connor Herson talks about this a lot. His dad apparently has held this standard for a long time in this big wall free climbing world. But style is what you do in terms of your own climbing and your decisions for performance. And ethics are how you affect other parties. So style is like, did I use this stance to break up this pitch? Did I place the gear or not? And the party below you, the party above you, they don't care. Like whatever. Like you're just having your little isolated experience. But at what standard do you hold yourself to for the performance free climbing?
And it describes the way you approach the objective.
Yeah. So style is like very performance oriented, but super valuable in holding ourselves to a high standard as a community, an evolving standard as professional climbers.
And also being descriptive about like, because there's so many nuances on how you can approach an objective. And so being clear about your style is good because it's like, oh, well, this person did it in this style and this person did it in that style. There are 2 different ways to approach the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's lost in our short form media world where it's like ascent, green check mark. And in the blog format where you like give your trip report, it's kind of a moot point. You like write paragraphs and paragraphs and people are like, okay, I get the style. It's awesome. And then there's room for evolution. Ethics are, how did you affect other parties? So I try to push this AMP kind of a play on LNT, leave no trace, of like, what's the acronym of what we're trying to do up there in terms of ethics? And it's affect minimal parties. So using that framework, you can think about something like a fixed rope. Leaving a fixed rope on a new route project that you are bolting affects no one else. Like maybe visually there's some consideration of, is it Yeah, is it visible? Is it going to hurt somebody if it's left for too long? Whatever. Like you can do the back of the envelope calculation of how many other people am I affecting with this decision, where rappelling in to work changing corners, or we should talk about FRIAD, because that's the popular version. Rappelling in to go try the boulder problem. Yeah, it's an interesting case study even. Rappelling in to try the boulder problem, leaving a trail of fixed lines for the top third of LCAP versus rappelling in, pulling your rope, passing people, kind of annoying them. I use the annoying word too much. Bugging them as you go past for like 5 minutes, but then they're unaffected otherwise, versus just starting ground up. Those are like huge differences in how much are you affecting these other parties. So it isn't, to me, it's not like ground up or bust. It's just like do some back of the envelope math and how many climber hours am I affecting for my personal ascent. And I think you have every person's podcast here. And I think that's something that is celebrated in professional climbing. That's like so different than just like how we go climbing as normal people. Is for the professional climbers, they can take a view that their ascent is more important, string up a line of ropes on the route, claim it's their route for the season, do these like pretty extreme things to like do the athletic achievement, but at the cost of other random people. And I think these days, especially, the level is just so high in your Yosemite myopic bubble. You think you know every person that has plans to try a certain route. But these days, like some rando in Salt Lake in his cubicle might be coming out to try this cool, hard 513 multi-pitch route, and you have no idea. And I think we should all carry that feeling of like, the level's really high, and we should be holding ourselves to a really high standard as well of maintaining the resources for other people. So ground up, wrap in are like two sides of it that can be pretty extreme. And ground up was used for a documentary film title that I was part of. And I don't even like those distinctions as much as like, let's just think about it of like, contextually, does it make sense or not? And the AMP, like back of the envelope calculation, is how I think about it.
Mm-hmm. Now, yours, like you said, like ground up, top down, doesn't really matter. It's more of like everybody else's experience on the climb. You could wrap in and fix lines on a route and work on it. If there's no one there, then there's no ethical dilemma.
Yeah, exactly. And no one there that day versus like assuming no one's going to be there that week or that month is where it can go wrong. And thinking you know everybody that's planning to do that route. And yeah, I make a living now on telling people about top rope soloing, a little bit about lead rope soloing. But I think I hold myself to a pretty strong ethic where I don't leave ropes up overnight in people's way. Like for the most time, there may be some cases where I go wrong, of course. But I try to hold myself to that standard of like, you can go top rope soloing, you can go work your project. Again, just like thinking outside the box, thinking big picture of like, how do we just not leave things in people's way and still achieve this objective of practicing our route? So I think the framework is more interesting than the labels of style of ground up or not. And even the ground up film, to be honest, we use fixed lines for the bottom part. They weren't ours, but we like kind of inherited being part of this little fixed line circus. We're a little bit part of the problem. And even some of the hard pitches, we pulled out stick clips to like get up some weirdness. So it's like nuanced, and movie magic washes over all that. And I don't like the ground up label, but we try to be collaborative with other people working the route that season, and there were other people on it. And we had a bit of a scene. We tried to communicate. We did do a little bit of that thing of like, we think we know everyone trying this route. But yeah, so that's how I look at it. And those experiences even make me more strongly in the camp of like, let's not assume we know everyone that's trying this route. Let's clean our stuff. Let's get out of the way, have our experience, but like really try to affect minimal other climbing parties.
How do you see the ethics style debate or discussion translating to like first ascents and bolting? Because I feel like that's like a lot of the heat. It's like Because you're saying ethics, how does it affect minimal people? Bolting a route, it's like you're affecting the people who come to climb your route after you've done it. As a route developer yourself, like how do you see the words ethics and styles translating to route development?
Yeah, I find it interesting in terms of dangerous trad climbs for sure. Of like are you affecting the community more by creating this really dangerous route that no one's going to climb, but is inspirational, but maybe someday somebody might get hurt on it? Like that has its place in climbing that we celebrate. But then if you add one bolt or a few bolts and make it exciting but safe, or if it's just a sport climb, those are like very different experiences. And I think there's a place for all those. And it comes down to user design of like, who are you as a route developer? How do you present it to the world is really important. Of like some obscure thing with no information that's dangerous. That's like a time bomb to lure people in, I think is like not that cool. But
if it's going to be dangerous and an iconic test piece, label it as such and be loud about it.
yeah, not you're loud about your accomplishment, but
No,
like
but just like,
clear.
this is what it is.
Yeah, clarity of this is what it is. Here's how I approached it to do it safely. This is like a reasonable thing to put out.
And why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give people a story to like latch onto rather than it just being like, this thing is fucked. Like, why is this even here? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Like be clear of how you approached it. Kind of even back to the like being clear about your style. Is I also think there's this pro climber thing to like get your achievement and not build up the next tier of climbers. You don't like share how you did it. You didn't share how you thought about it. And sometimes you don't even share the beta for your new route. And I think that's really lame. Of like, if you are a professional climber leading by example, as climbing as part of your career, like how do you leave the community better off for what you did?
Rather than your own self-aggrandization of like, this is what I did.
Yeah, it's like share the topo, put it out there somewhere. Get a mountain project account and like you don't need to like ruin the experience, but like tee up a little bit of like, hey, here's how I approached it.
Yeah.
This worked, this didn't.
Yeah. Help all of us learn a little bit.
Yeah. You get me fired up.
I love it. We'll get back to talking in just 1 minute, but first, I need to tell you about my favorite climbing pants. Livzin's EcoTrek trail pants are by far the best climbing pants I've worn in my entire 12 years of climbing. Durable, flexible, lightweight, and packed with useful features like zippered pockets, an internal waistband drawstring, and a unique leg roll-up system. Other climbing pants don't even come close. Either the fit is terrible, they wear out in a single season, or you can only wear them climbing. Livzin's EcoTrek trail pants are unique in the fact that they're rugged enough to climb in and still classy enough to go out on a date in. You're essentially getting 2 pairs of pants for the price of 1. Plus, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can buy them, try them, and if you still don't like them, they'll just give you your money back. Right now, you can get 15% off your next pair of Livzin EcoTrek trail pants by going to the link in the description below and using code TCM15 at checkout. That's the link in the description below and code TCM15 at checkout. And remember, every dollar spent at Livzin is a dollar spent supporting this podcast. Let's talk about ecstasy.
Mm-hmm.
What is on-site threshold climbing? I've heard of on-site climbing before. I love on-site climbing.
Where'd you get the threshold word?
That was, you used it in Nuggets podcast.
Nice.
In describing like a style of climbing that you enjoy. I love on-site climbing. It's like why I climb. Like I have never projected a route before. My on-site grade and my redpoint grade are like the same. And so, I mean,
Well, it sounds like you're doing it then.
yeah. And so, yeah, so I resonate with this topic and this philosophy of climbing or approach to climbing. And so, yeah, what does on-site threshold climbing mean to you?
Yeah, it means climbing really close to the limit of where you may or may not fall on a route, hopefully pulling it off, but doing it first try. So on-siting versus flashing, even that's like maybe muddied these days.
Yeah, so talk to me about the difference between those two.
On-siting is like very minimal information about the route. To me, the threshold is, I looked at the guidebook, I might have saw a still photo, but I have like a guidebook description of what the route is like and what to bring, but I haven't seen anybody on it, I haven't belayed anybody on it, and I haven't like rappelled past it next door. Of like I can view it from below. Yeah, maybe.
So on site, I mean, I think that if you break down that word, it's literally like upon sight only.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
And so
Exactly.
you can look at it
On
as much
first
as you
sight.
want on first sight. Yeah. You can look at it as much as you want. You should know what to bring to do it safely. Outside of that, that's as much information as you get.
Yeah. Which I think is the real test of how skillful are you as a climber. Where, to be a little bit pointed, I feel like the in a day thing, like sometimes I jokingly refer to it as like, okay, that's like the party trick. Like you did all this stuff to do the party trick. Red point, even sometimes if you spent months and months, there's like the improbability's gone. It like feels like you have to just perform the party trick. And I do that. I love that game as well. But it can start feeling like a game where the like true test of climbing mastery to me is in on-site climbing. And it feels like Adamandra is the one that's pushing this thought still, where most other people, it's kind of fallen by the wayside. And I think it's especially relevant for trad climbing and multi-pitch climbing because historically you didn't head point the route. You didn't like project the multi-pitch, which these days, like, sure, that's maybe more the standard. But like if you go to Red Rock, you want to climb Cloud Tower for your first thing, you're probably climbing it on-site, ground up. Like that's just like normal climbing. So again, like what professional climbing feats are like quite detached from how most people just go rock climbing as an average person. And I think on-site climbing is like an interesting version of what do professional climbers achieve if they just take the every person's approach of like just normal rock climbing.
Yeah, I think I would imagine you have to practice red pointing really hard grades to increase your on-site threshold, at least to a nominal amount. Like there's a reason why I'm stuck at 11 plus. It's because I'm not like projecting and red pointing harder grades. I think that to a certain point, only trying to on-site threshold climb, you're going to reach some sort of ceiling, whether it's like a physical fitness ceiling or it's just time on rock ceiling or a movement, finger strength ceiling, whatever it is. You're going to have to do some training and some practice above your on-site grade to be able to push that.
Yeah, I think an interesting combo if you were like an on-site trad climber and a boulderer, you like probably could bump up your on-site grade because your movement library, your confidence of feeling a sensation of difficulty and just charging forward would be there. I feel like bouldering and trad climbing pair really well
I
together.
know you said that recently. Actually, I was like, wow, I resonate with that a lot. It's a bunch of boulder moves put between stances. And I was like, that's so true. And that was one of the coolest things about trad climbing that I found was like, it's really rare to come across like a super sustained, like 40-meter pitch of just like 511 plus. You know, it's usually like a move or two and you're like, and it's usually protected by a bolt. And then you get to a stance, you're like, wow, like this is amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely area by area specific. Like maybe the splitter cracks, you get like the enduro factor. But in northern Arizona, especially, the harder the trad route was, the shorter the crux. Where it'd be like some extreme examples, 11 plus to like a V9 to like 510. And it's like you like are at a stance, maybe like slightly strenuous, but like a 512 position, place some gear, and then you do a boulder problem. And like that's hard trad climbing often. Maybe not hard crack climbing, but yeah, most trad climbing tends to feel bouldery.
That's cool. You, I guess, expanding on this topic a little bit.
Yeah, we went off the on-site
No, I love it. I love it.
tangent.
You had talked about like how climbing content is like all about the red pointing. That's kind of like the focus of a lot of the professional athletes these days. Do you think that's like just what people like to do, or is that kind of influenced by like what is cherished and valued by the media, by the community, by being recognized? What is that like? Why do you think on-sighting gets less attention?
Yeah, without getting too much of a community critique, like my gut reaction is that the numbers are just smaller. Like no one cares about 8A, 13B. I say that in jest. Of like the level is 15 plus, like 13B means nothing. In your like little snippet, whatever caption, whatever. Yeah, I just watched the Mellow Film Tour, and it was like projecting really great films, and it left me a feeling of like is beating your head against a project all rock climbing is? Of like,
It wouldn't, if it was, I wouldn't be a climber.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think most climbers are realize that if like maybe they don't call it onsighting, but they just call it going rock climbing. Of like, yeah, you just like pick a route and try it, and hopefully have success. And yeah, I hope that's not lost in professional climbing. And I think the onsighting is like the closest connection point there.
Mm-hmm. We'd in our meet and greet, we talked about the pillars like performance, adventure, spirituality, and partnerships. To me, the reason why I love onsighting so much is because it like the word adventure is like built into it. But you had put that as one of your last things, but you love onsighting. So if it's not the adventure element of onsighting, like what is it?
Yeah, you can break your format here. I don't know if I related to any of those words super strongly.
Okay.
I even wrote my own 4.
Oh yeah, what are they?
I think performance is good. I do jokingly call myself a performance rock climber, kind of picking at myself because I can find myself resting, like over resting, like I gotta be fresh for the next good day of climbing. But performance, I would even loop in puzzles. So I wrote down 4 words just to kind of poke at you.
I love it.
Puzzles, community, solitude, and toil.
Toil.
Which, yeah, I think performance, I do like the physicality of climbing, the like feeling strong, feeling fit. But to me, the puzzle of the beta, the puzzle of the gear, like honestly, puzzling is like the primary driver in climbing for me. And it plays way more into, I would describe myself as a maker, a tinkerer, primary over like climbing. So puzzling, yeah, we haven't even gotten into lead soloing, but partnership kind of comes into play. But for me, it's community. It's not just about you and your partner against the world and against the party in front of you. How do you pass them? Like we're taking on this together. It's like, it's a beautiful community we have here. And even lead soloing has like a really strong collaborative community around it. Solitude, clearly as the rope solo person, I enjoy the solitude. I think for me, that's like a big part of the spiritual aspect is just like being in nature and enjoying the peace and quiet and getting out of our day-to-day intensity. And then toil, yeah, adventure. Maybe I've been in it too long. If like the adventure word feels a little overplayed. Of like type 2 fun, adventure, this and that. Of like, yeah, it's facing the unknown, the improbability.
Yeah, I think it's like the word novelty.
Yeah, which is like I separate them. Like puzzling and toiling is like maybe those together mean adventure.
Describe toil. What's toil?
Of just the physicality of doing something hard. Of just like
the element of suffering.
Yeah. Of just like we're out doing the thing, we're using our bodies, we feel exhausted afterwards. The sense of satisfaction of using our bodies well, which isn't necessarily performance. It's like, yeah, the afterwards of like we did a thing that was pretty hard.
Yeah. I love the fact that you
I'll
gave
still
me...
play your game and talk about those words.
So I think that what this has done is actually kind of like potentially reframed how I approach this, which I love. Because I hate one thing that I try not to do in this podcast, and I'm guilty of it sometimes, is like putting people in my box or putting people in a box. And my goal there isn't to put you in my box and like force you into it. It's more just trying to like, that's how my brain works. And so I'm trying to get like to have a conversation about like certain topics. And like the only way I can see it at least is through my lens. But the way you've brought this up, like if I were to have asked you on the show, describe why you climb in 4 words, do you think you could have come up that on the spot, or did it take you time to come up with that?
I think I could have came up with like 2 or 3 of the words.
2 or 3?
The puzzling and community. Like if I were to say why rock climbing appeals to me, it's like the puzzle and the community. Community has really given me everything in my current life. It's really impressive. Of like I just moved out of state, showed up to this new place, and I'm once removed at most from literally everyone in the climbing community. And it's just like such a warm welcome, so easy to be enmeshed in a community. And same feeling of going to the valley every fall as like I show up there. And especially when I was living in Flagstaff, a smaller mountain town, I would go to Yosemite and I'd have like almost this urban experience of lots of people around in the park, but I think I know more people in Yosemite than I did in Flagstaff. And it's just like a really impressive feeling of community.
Do you think that's unique to your situation, or do you think, because I feel like there are some people who struggle with that community aspect to it, or they feel isolated, and I feel like some people might choose rope soloing because they can't find partners, they don't feel like they have a sense of community. Do you think that's personality? Do you think that's location, the inability to travel?
Yeah, my
Like
answer
all
would
of
have been
those.
location matching personality of like in Salt Lake City, the mega gyms. I don't think I made nearly as many friends as these like smaller communities. Um, yeah, Flagstaff and now Tahoe, Reno, wherever I'm bouncing around. Um, they feel very approachable. Like I'm introverted, outgoing at times, friendly, but definitely err towards the quieter side. And having a space that matches that. And honestly, these days it's like gym choice. So even in a bigger city, there's like the mega gyms, and maybe there's like a more intimate training gym. And that's kind of what these mountain communities provide, is like only the intimate gym. So yeah, that. And then out of the crag, there's probably a level of like competency and confidence that I've built over time that makes me feel really comfortable at the sport crags. Or if you're newer, you might just like be on edge and not know how the program works. But yeah, then even crag choice of like choosing Maple Pipe Dream Cave versus like, I'm thinking Salt Lake examples, versus like going up to Green Egg Gully, where you're like kind of in this like social corridor, but you're trying different routes, and it's not like throwing elbows to get on a route. Yeah, those are some real-time rambles, but yeah, I think it's being strategic for sure, and like not putting yourself in a situation where you're not setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, I went up to Robber's Roost recently up in Charleston,
That's an extreme example.
and I felt so uncomfortable.
I feel uncomfortable there. That place stresses me out.
Yeah, I was so uncomfortable. Like everyone knows each other, and everyone's like, "What are you getting on?" And everyone's talking about climbing, and I'm just like, "Oh man, I'm so out of my element here." Like
Yeah.
I love just being with my partner, like alone on Wilson, like just
Yeah.
with no noise, no people. And so it's just a different experience.
But even if you like crossed another party on Wilson, you guys would probably connect. And
Yeah,
you'd,
for
like,
sure. Be like, dude, sick. This is
So it's
great.
not, yeah, maybe it's not the solitude there, but it's definitely a spectrum of climbing experiences for sure. And I'm uncomfortable in my own version of, yeah, echoey sport crags or this or that. But I really celebrate the community in the realm that I like, or that suits me, a better way to say it.
That's awesome. Do you feel like you create room? How do I ask this question? Because there's like partaking in an existing community, and then there's creating one. Do you feel like you partake or create, or a mix of both?
I think the user design aspect creates new possibility for community, where I am trying to create something new. And sometimes that creates a wave of people, community following that approach. Yeah, it'd be hard to say that I don't create community. My time in Flagstaff, I created a community makerspace where I like kind of took over this warehouse full of junky tools and built it into this thriving community of 250 members, and like a really beautiful space as just like a random tangent outside of climbing. But I was executive director of this nonprofit makerspace. And I approached it with a user design lens of like, build it and they will come, make a business machine that works and is going to last, but also make the space really compelling. Yeah, so the user design aspect can invite other people in. That's how I would say it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's important to do. I don't know. It's not easy to do, to be able to like use your skills and like create a safe place for everybody else to enjoy the same thing. It's like it's a very like a leadership kind of position to find yourself in.
Yeah, I just try to lead by example, but I do feel like I see kind of things out of left field, out of the box fairly often. And once I see that possibility, it like bugs me to not do something about it. And I say it like this very ambiguous way, because I think it has carried through these like approaches in climbing, through poking at you with different words of just like, yeah, trying to create a new possibility and then once I see that, I do feel like, oh, if I enjoy this possibility, other people probably will too. And basically that attitude, yeah, very abstract way to say it. But
Sparks good conversation as well. Let's be real for a second. The blueprint for a successful climbing podcast is simple. Interview the most famous climbers in the world. Big names mean big followings, lots of SEO power, and a built-in audience that helps promote every episode. But this show has never been about that. From the beginning, it has been my mission to bring you stories from the climbing majority. The climbers who don't live in the limelight. The ones who quietly put up routes, build communities, and help give back in ways that are rarely recognized. And while that's what makes this show special, it also means we have an uphill battle when it comes to growth. And that is where you come in. If you believe in the show, if you've been fired up, inspired by an episode, word of mouth is the single most powerful way to help the show. Share an episode with a friend. Post about us on social media, jump onto Reddit threads and Mountain Project forums, and tell people what you've been listening to. Also, I am on a mission to beat Climbing Gold's Spotify review count. If you haven't already left this show a review, please head on over to Spotify to give this show 5 stars. We only have 1,000 more ratings to go. So back to the origin of this like on-site thing we started talking about.
20
Ecstasy
minutes
itself. Later. Yeah. I have climbed in Pine Creek. I've climbed Queen of Heartbreaks and Sheila right next to it. It's just the striking arete. You know, it's like such an obvious line. Just, I guess, quickly walk through like the history of the route itself. Had anybody on-sited it before? And then talk to me about your like experience on this route.
Yeah. So Ecstasy looks like the corner of a concrete building, like the outside corner. It's an arete. It's 13B, a granite route, sparsely bolted, a sport route, but like punchy enough to keep you engaged. And you're grabbing this 90-degree arete, kind of lay backing the arete, and there appears to be 0 holds when you stand at the base. It's like 100 feet tall, and it just is the most imposing route you can imagine to me. And yeah, the like audacity to like even try in the first place, to kind of like the everyman's like, I'm just gonna give this climb a try and see what happens, not just like stick clip up at first, was like a big hurdle in my mind to even like give it a shot. But that was March of 2020, like immediately pre-COVID, last bit of normalcy there. But I was on a Bishop trip. I'd been wanting to try this route. I'd spent enough time in Little Cottonwood that I thought like, should at least give it a try, ground up. There was no draws hanging on it. Often routes have somebody's project draws. Thank God there was no fixed line hanging on it, because that could have blocked my whole experience, especially if the fixed line were through the draws. As like I couldn't have had this experience, which is I think a cool thing to point out. But as some Salt Lake random climber, I showed up, tried it, and had this like amazing flow state, feeling of mastery, feeling of like in my own world, and yeah, did it first try. No chalk on the route, no draws on the route, just this like imposing, crazy corner feature. And yeah, kind of back in the empowerment, feeling like, wow, I've become the rock climber that I've always looked up to. It was like a big step in that. And yeah, using my 4 words, like the puzzling aspect was like the ultimate puzzle to me. On-site climbing is like real-time puzzle solving. Community, as there was like a story to it of this route had been in my mind. I had heard people talking about it. I had heard who had done it in which ways. And there was like this sense of story, sense of community, and being part of the community in my ascent. Now I'm blanking on my 4 words. Speaking of solitude, I think on-siting, I'm kind of an anti-cheer person when I'm climbing. Not out of cheer and happiness, but out of like cheering and people supporting from the ground. I really love being in the problem-solving flow, the bubble, especially on-site climbing. Like so
it's like a super, super deep sense of flow.
Yeah, I had like my significant other at the time, close partner, belay meet, silent belay, not very many people around. And I was just like in this insane sense of flow. And then toil is like, yeah, it was freaking hard. And afterwards, I'm like, oh my God, my arms don't work. That was crazy. Yeah, so I think on-site climbing really hits all of them for me. And that's a meaningful ascent because before, yeah, you asked who had done it. It was Alex Megos and Alex Honnold had on-sighted the route. And obviously, that's a list in the community that I look up to. And afterwards, Chris Sharma had done it and got some news blurbs around it. And I'm like, oh, all right. Like these are the people I looked up to from my cubicle in Minnesota, like 5 years before, 7 years before. And it just feels good to be a part of the community. Yeah, to be frank, like a sense of relevance of like at the level in performance, but also at the level to have a voice and to try to shape the community into a way that I want climbing to be.
Now, about that voice, if it were me, I would be posting my GoPro video of it, a bit of pat yourself on the back, I guess, but not like disgustingly. Did you have any self-promotion about that ascent, or was it just like check it in mountain project and move on with my life and feel amazing?
I wrote a blog post about it. I think it might have been like a year later. Yeah, my relevance in the climbing community has mostly come from making and creative aspects, not necessarily from performance, and I'm thankful for that. It was something I was really proud of, and definitely told all my friends, like, wow, I had this like insane experience this weekend, this trip, whatever. Yeah, so I'm not trying, I don't think the like don't share the news angle is that cool either. Like, yeah, we should be proud of our accomplishments. It's a, yeah, tough line there where I haven't been on social media for years. I do like the blog format for all the style points we discussed, for like the intimacy of sending a newsletter. It's kind of fun. Yeah, and then Mountain Project, I am super active on Mountain Project, and I leave a trail of stars, but I don't tick.
You don't take anything?
No.
Oh,
I have a spreadsheet. Like I keep a log of what I have done, and it's meaningful to me to look back or have record of it.
is it because ticks are public?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. I actually just found out that ticks are public. It was something I just found out.
I hope you didn't write anything embarrassing.
So the way I found out actually was there's a guy out here who has created an AI software that scans ticks and comments for booty.
Oh,
And he just gets a report every day,
yeah.
of like all the routes in Red Rock that gear has been left on. And he's a software engineer, so he like works 2 days a week or whatever. And so he'll just go out and he'll just booty hunt on gear. And he has like,
What's
I
his
guess he
name?
has like Taylor Fahy.
Oh yeah, I know Taylor.
Yeah. Okay.
Checks out.
Yeah. And so like I was like, he reached out to me. He's like, hey man, I saw you bailed on blah blah blah. I'm like, how the hell did you know that? And he's like, your tick. I'm like, oh fuck, those are public. So yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, there's part of me as like an introvert solitude aspect for sure, where like it's a push and pull. I want to be relevant in the community in the sense of, yeah, having a voice, feeling supported, feeling celebrated, to be frank. And I enjoy my solitude. And yeah, there's a tension there. And my version that feels good is sharing blog posts occasionally, but there's cool random things that I've done that have no trace. And partly circumstantial of like, oh, I'll write a blog post about this and just don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's, I guess like apples to potatoes here, but there's tons of climbs I've done that I haven't filmed. It's like, you don't have to film everything.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. But I've made YouTube videos of routes and I've like done the commercial side. So I'm not like anti that. And I watch those videos and they're inspiring. So I don't know. It's all contextual of like, even down to like deciding this route, what experience do I want? And like enjoying the different sides of climbing and the extremes. Like some little secrets just for me and some doing something cool and being a little more, yeah, in your face about what you did. Yeah, I don't know. It's all nice.
It's also, I mean, like you said, what do you want to get out of it? What do you want to get out of each route? Like, what are you passionate about? Like, I'm a filmmaker by career. And so like, it's just a natural translation.
Yeah, it's like the way I bring making to my climbing, you bring filmmaking.
Exactly.
Filming and visuals and storytelling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good. We all have our approaches. I think that's a fun part of climbing is hopefully we're still oddballs and not just like conformists.
You had said that there's only about 20 or 50 people in the world that actually make a salary from climbing. and you would categorize these people as professionals. And you put yourself in this tier of like elite climbing community. By like your own definition, you're not a professional climber. Would you agree with that?
Yes, that was us riffing on the phone pre-call. So I'm just like kind of like hypothesizing. But I think I have this place where I go climbing with these climbers that are making careers, making salaries, and we're trying the same objectives, and sometimes they achieve it before I do. But I'm like close enough to the game to see what's going on. But I've gotten some trips funded previously, and then I get some free products. But yeah, as far as a professional climber, I try to approach it more like the every person's climber. So maybe I don't fit your podcast guest
You're right
template.
on the edge.
Yeah, but I try to just be a normal climber and how I'm going about it. And we talked about onsighting and style and all these things. Yeah, like just go rock climbing normally most of the time. But I have seen like I'm in that world enough to see what's going on. And yeah, maybe like the US climbers outside climbers is like in the dozens, like not a ton. More than our product designers at climbing companies, to be fair. It's like you might have a better shot at being a pro climber
Than a product designer at Black Diamond.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you ever strive to like be in that top 1% of the 1% making a salary climbing? Was that like a goal of yours? Is it a goal of yours? And are those positions like partly political in nature?
I wouldn't say political, but that's an interesting point to start of what those positions are in nature. And to me, it's storytelling. And yeah, you're being paid to be an example. And let's be frank, the companies are paying you for a commercial return. Like they're paying you to be a storyteller, to inspire other climbers, to get into the community and like raise the economic level of the brand, buy the stuff, but like just be part of the economics of the sport, to be frank. And it's all storytelling. So making movies, writing blogs, Instagram. And I think that's where the role of storyteller is something I dabble in, but it's not like the core driver in climbing for me. And there were some years post BD, climbing full time, still working like some random, working at the makerspace, doing a little bit of like handyman home remodel work, where I'm like, oh, it would be nice to make the money through climbing instead of painting or drywall or random little side gigs. And for like a year or two, I did kind of fancy myself towards that direction and tried a little harder on YouTube and things like that. And I don't know, it just like I didn't catch the wave the same way that I feel like I catch the wave when I stay to my nature of making things, which leads into Avant at some point. But yeah, I have a funny place now in climbing where people talk about having a personal brand. And it's like, no, I have a personal brand. Like the brand's separate as mine. And it's kind of a fun version of it for me. It suits me really well. It's like way more about the things the brand is creating, but it's my brand and people know that. And yeah, it's like a fun, once removed version of it. So I definitely, yeah, make my living and my entire career is wrapped up in climbing. So maybe disingenuous to say I'm not professionally in the climbing industry, but
you've carved your own path. Yeah. And that's rad. I think that's awesome. I mean, I resonate with you a lot on being once removed. I think one of the only reasons why you use successful with air quotes with my Instagram is just that it's not me, it's my climbing. And like, I don't know if I could do it if it was just like, I have to be on camera, I have to do the
you have an
selfie
interesting
thing.
first person view actually doesn't include you.
Doesn't include me. It's my pants and my arms. And it's I'm sharing the experience of the climb rather than like, this is about me. And so it's like, it's this weird.
You have like a little pseudonym, and I met you in person. I'm like, I think that's
Exactly.
this guy, but I like almost didn't want to ask directly in case I was wrong.
Yeah. Talking about like the full-time climbing, you had mentioned that you like got bored.
Yeah, I probably threw out some dramatic words to to pull you in when we were just pre-chatting on the phone.
Yeah. Well, it worked. Now you got to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the whole preface here is like you full-time climbing, living the dream that a lot of people really strive for. I mean, I think that's like a lot of people's goal. I mean, it's my goal. I'd love to climb full-time. Obviously, I'd like to be doing other stuff in tangent to it. Yeah. Like, what does it feel like to get to that place where you're like, man, I need something else?
Yeah, it brings up a lot of thoughts. For me, I really enjoy local climbing. One of the things that feels like a means to an end in climbing is travel. And this is something that's not a popular view of, like, especially in climbing media and professional climbing. It's like all about destinations. And I really love local climbing. And one of the things I feel like when I'm traveling is I don't have my tinker space, tinker time for my climbing gear, my home remodels, my whatever, of just like that physical creation is really difficult while you're traveling, while you're transient. So with that kind of local centric view, I'm climbing full time, but that means 2 days of climbing, 1 day of rest. Best case, maybe you get injured, maybe you have other downtime, off seasons. Maybe those days are climbing gym days where you climb for 3-4 hours and then you're hanging out. It's like, what do you do with the hangout time? I jokingly call resting waiting. Sometimes it feels like we're just waiting to go rock climbing, but like feels like a shallow life. For me, just rock climbing without the making did feel shallow. But I was tinkering for myself in those times. Like, I had a startup idea that didn't go anywhere. I was working on this makerspace project. So I never really just climbed full time and traveled. But I knew that I wouldn't like it that much, honestly, is because of losing those other elements that keep me rooted in.
And so traveling was like almost a part of being a full-time climber that you didn't resonate with. And you're like, okay, well, if I'm not going to travel, where else does my focus lie?
Wouldn't you say that? When you say you're a full-time climber, you probably imagine somebody in a van.
Oh yeah, of course. I immediately think of Patagonia and
Climbing full-time
Pakistan and
traveling are like intensely together. And I've kind of lived the full-time climbing at a local sense for the last 5 years, mostly in Flagstaff and now in the new backyard. Yeah, I think that's even like a contrarian take in climbing of like, it's not all about the traveling. It's like the professional glorified climbing destination experience is like so different than normal rock climbing and stewardship and community making. And there's counterexamples, but you watch the films and it's mostly about destinations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on the lens you're looking through, right? I think if you're thinking about commercialization, traveling is probably like a magnifier to your sense of effectiveness, because it's like now the story is like we travel and there's like the bags we have to do, blah blah blah. It's like it adds so much more toil to the climb. And when you're local, it's like you lacking that kind of like adventure.
I had my espresso in the morning and woke up in my own bed and then went out for a few hours and did this hard thing and then had dinner with friends and then had a hot shower. It was a great day.
Yeah. But I think that when you're traveling, you lack, like you're alluding to, or you've already said, you lack time to dedicate more effort into like local community and like advancing the kind of like the space that you're in locally.
Yeah. So on the boredom topic, that was just kind of all context of like, I never really did live that lifestyle. It's like quite local centric as a climber, even if I had some trips every year. And I still, even with that, I still got like a little bit bored, and my creative energy went towards these projects. And kind of to the leading community points you were making is growing up and having all these fun projects. I was really solving problems, puzzling, tinkering for myself, for my own problems. And I think I did have a realization in being a professional engineer that if you solve your own problem and then present it to the world, open source or starting a brand, is you do create community around that, because the problem you have that you solve really well is probably going to improve other people's experiences as well. So yeah, I think there was definitely boredom space in those years of climbing that directly led to experimenting and thinking on systems, and definitely led into Avant. And I feel more satisfied now with climbing. I can schedule my climbing and go climbing whenever I want. And then I have a business project that I fill in the gaps with. And I feel more in life flow now with both of those. In my Flagstaff time, it was like the makerspace was that extra thing. But there was like moments, months, trips where I did live the traveling climber life, and it's not for me full time.
Before we get back to it, if you've been listening to the show, you probably know how much time and effort and love I put into this project. The research, the conversations, the production, the editing, all of it. And while it might seem like I've got a team of people on this project, I don't. It's just me. And even with sponsors, I spend a large amount of my own personal money on this project simply because I love it. If you're a listener that's looking for a way to give back to this show in a meaningful way, please become a Patreon subscriber. Once you become a supporting member of the Climbing Majority, not only will you feel really good about yourself, but you'll also get access to the ad-free version of the show and exclusive content. If this speaks to you, click the link in the description or go to patreon.com/theclimbingmajoritypodcast to become a supporting member of the show today. Let's talk about the flip stop, the one piece of your gear that I don't have yet.
Yeah, you're teasing me with this right here.
He's holding on to just a Z4 with a flip stopless.
Oh yeah, sound only video.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just flipping around. It's giving him anxiety.
Yeah. But the same way you like do something on a wall and in one motion you're like, ooh, that's not the way. Like that visceral feeling of like, this could be better. Yeah, it is so now I have this brand, Avant Climbing. That's my small business. And I sell a handful of products for trad, multi-pitch, and rope solo climbing that are all things I made for myself first and solved my own little climbing annoyances, problems, whatever. And now I'm selling them on my e-commerce store. They're in some shops, but it's a hobby business on purpose of like, I'm not trying to be a Metolius or a Trango. I'm just trying to like do my own thing. But an origin story of that is I had some of these rope solo gadgets that I was sharing open source files on the internet in the like 2022, 2023 era. And a lot of those were built off other community members. And I was just adding my professional product design kind of final touches to these existing concepts. So a lot of those were not from scratch, but just final refinements to make them work really, really well. But there was one that I'm really proud of that came out of another aha moment that's fun to point to is I was trying Cobra Crack. Again, this is like my sweet spot of being really close to the cutting edge climbers, but like not quite relevant in sometimes doing these projects, but around the scene, seeing what's going on. And I'm at Cobra Crack trying it, making some links, doing a lot of dogging, quick draws, PASs into the cam slings to like hang out, rest, try moves. And also trying to do some leading on the route where you're like hanging off the literal fingertips of your hand with one hand to place cams. And it's like a ticking clock, to say the least. And there's like one key 0.4 in the middle of the head wall that everyone places. And it's pretty easy to place if you do it in flow with the sequence. But an upside down carabiner, as petty as it can seem, can impede your one go, make you hang off that lock like twice as long, make the next move harder, and then it just can like ruin that go. And on a route like that, that's so goby sensitive and so powerful, you get like 2 goes, 3 goes for your session, and then you have to rest, heal skin, whatever. So it's like a meaningful difference to have your rack streamlined and working how it should. So most pro climbers use tape in those circumstances. They just use climbing tape to tape the carabiner in place so it doesn't flip and make it hard to clip. And I kind of have my spidey senses turn on when I see DIY solutions. I'm like, oh, it probably could be better. And I worked in the brands. I know that those aha moments feed into products, but you just need to like close the loop there somehow. And this was one where I'm like, I'm not gonna call up my Black Diamond buddies and be like, you guys should do this. Like, I wanna see it to life. But basically, you can use a carabiner stabilizer from Quick Draws on your cams. And I had my entire rack outfitted with these. They're like little rubber triangles that pinch the sling to keep the carabiner from flipping for easier clipping. But it also pinches the sling, which means when you clip an extension draw to the sling and weight it, it's harder to clip the flattened sling. And when you weight it, it breaks the rubber. Maybe not the very first time, but in a matter of like a climbing season, you'll break a substantial number of your carabiner stabilizers. So I came up with this like little figure 8 wrap of tape at Cobra Crack when I was just waiting my turn that taped the carabiner in the sling while keeping the sling open. It was just like just like a strip of tape. I'm like, this is the answer. I think you can do this out of rubber and make a commercialized product that works for everybody. And that was the flip stop. So I had something I wanted to commercialize for the first time that I thought would do really well in climbing as like a little cottage brand. But I also was in the industry. I know that little standalone product's not going to do very well. And I had these other rope solo gadgets, these little rope holders and rubber things. It's hard to describe in audio. They're pretty esoteric. But these accessories, I'm not selling ropes and carabiners. I'm selling these like add-ons that actually make a substantial difference. But that flip stop was like the direct impetus of like, oh, I should start a brand. I want to see this to life. I want this to exist in the climbing world. And I gathered up a handful of ideas. Honestly, I even gathered up some old notes from my BD times that they didn't care about. They ignored. So I'm like, I'm going to bring that to life. And yeah, I created this fun brand that's just my wacky ideas with no one to tell me no. It's awesome.
How many products do you have now?
I think maybe like 12.
Nice.
And some more coming. Like a fleet of lead rope solo products that if you know lead rope soloing, you'll know what they are. And then a top rope solo neck lanyard and a top rope solo specific rope protector that rips right off. Kind of fixes the bug of rope protectors are really 2 hands to take off. And then some trad climbing things like the flip stop, carabiner stabilizer, and then even this like quick release cam holder on your harness. Mm-hmm. So you add it to your gear loop and you can pop your cam off and place it without putting it in your mouth. Mm-hmm. So that's a weird thing of trad climbing is like we put every single cam in our mouth. Kind of strange.
It is a little strange, yeah.
Which, yeah, we haven't solved it for multi-pitch, like off the ground, normal climbing. But for hard trad climbing where you want to place all the gear you can, again, to keep it safe, is like, how do we just place it a little bit faster and thus place more gear? That was like a little gadget I had to come
How do you
up with.
keep, so like so many times I've had like an open cam, especially that one right there, like get hooked on a lip, an overhanging lip or something and like pull on my harness. Like, would it fall off if I had one of those?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the nature of the pitch. It's like a single pitch project. And if it's hard, it's probably a pretty clean pitch. And it's probably overhanging.
Yeah. It's project specific.
It's a project tool.
Got it.
But yeah, I have these like 12 geeky products that I made for myself that I now present to the community through my brand, my store, and it's been awesome. It like feels like the truest sense of myself in community place because I put out a lot of education and a lot of like leading by example through the brand and get to make these fun things that probably would have been told. I would have been told, no, we can't sell these at Black Diamond. But the wacky ideas, the simple wacky ideas are like my sweet spot for my product design.
That's cool, man. I'm glad you've like self-created such a great outlet for like what drives your passion and such a unique thing to do. And I mean, it's been awesome. People have, like Bryce shared your brand with me when it came out. It came out like January 24, right? Or 25?
Yeah. 24.
24.
A little over 2 years ago.
A little over 2 years ago. And it's been awesome. I love the content you've been putting out, and I haven't like dived too much into the rope soloing world, so I can't resonate with you super hard on all the wacky little tools, but I'm sure I will at some point. What about this one here? What was the precipice for this? And
so this is my snack pack multi-pitch storage pouch, which to try to not go full infomercial here. It's something I had made for myself like 10 years ago of, to me, multi-pitch climbing, I don't like wearing a backpack. Harder routes, I just foot haul it with a little tiny tagline, but easier kind of romping fun routes also mean you're probably going fast enough that you only need a bar, sunglasses, and your phone. Let's be honest, the phone is the multi-pitch multi-tool, as I like to call it. It's your topo, it's your light, it's your emergency communication. We bring our phones, but putting it in your pocket doesn't work very well. So yeah, 10 years ago, I used a phone sleeve off Amazon and added some loops and had just a phone sleeve as like a second chalk bag. And then this is kind of like my free time while at BD, but just making stuff for myself. And I added a little storage pouch to it to store those essentials, and I loved it. And that's really the threshold for Avant products is I find it really useful. I love it. And if it hits those metrics, then I'll sell it. And this was one of the key first products at Avant as well is, sell a multi-pitch storage pouch so you don't have to bring a backpack for every shorter partial day route.
How did you choose the size?
It ends up being right at 1 liter, but it's basically just like the same as a chalk bag. Yeah, it's like, what do you need to bring? Again, the list I mentioned. Yeah, you bring like a bar, a headlamp, a knife, and some sunglasses. And this is like your half-day supplies kit. And 1 liter is plenty for that. And it's like such a lightweight material that if you bring a 1/4 liter of supplies, it just squishes down. No big deal.
Did that phone tether, was that like the way that works, was that innovative on your end, or is that like something that you had seen before?
Yeah, so the snack pack does have an integrated phone tether, and there's some other brands. This is actually a commercialization reality of bringing the snack pack to life. I wanted to include a phone tether, and I had just used a phone tether from a different brand. But the commercialization realities of buying those at scale from the other brand, or trying to include one with it was really difficult and didn't make money. It would be a losing battle to try
because of the costs.
The costs, and then it's a bad user experience to be like, here, you buy my thing, but like, be sure you go to this store and buy this thing. Bad user experience. So kind of by necessity, I like used my knotless elastic cord from the Top Rope Solo lanyard and made a little phone tether. And it was kind of like a secondary thought of like, oh, it should have something with the snack pack. But yeah, now it's been a hit. But the like little insert it's kind of like an off-the-shelf component. I didn't innovate this. You find partners. It's like commercialization realities. Some things you build from scratch, and some things you find a supplier for. So little swivel connectors is like, I didn't CAD design this piece. You like find a supplier. But you find the right supplier, the stable supplier, figure out quality and stability.
That actual anchor though, like I had never seen that before.
Oh, really?
I had never seen the anchor before. Like when I first saw it, I didn't even know how to use it. I had to like think about it for a second. I was like, okay, like take my phone out of my case. Do I stick it through the charger? Okay, through the charger hole. Got it.
That isn't my innovation, but so much of design is taking adjacent innovation and applying it, and that's what that is.
I mean, it worked super well on the nose. I actually took the tether off and clipped the tether to my speed bag, and just like kept my phone in my chest pocket here, and then had it tethered like to my backpack, and then I had that in my day pack, and I like was micro organizing everything in my pack.
That's awesome.
So it was perfect. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, the design's all down to the details. Like this red carabiner being this size, it's the smallest little keychain carabiner I could find that can still clip a rope diameter or a bolt hanger.
Is it weighted? Like what is it rated to?
It probably breaks. I think this one breaks to like 2 kN.
Oh, so you could body weight that?
No.
Oh. 2
That's
kN?
my official answer.
Okay.
No.
Oh, no. Got it.
But it's basically a non-weight bearing carabiner, but it's big enough that you can clip it at anchors.
Uh-huh.
So
Cool.
yeah,
Nice.
try not to go full infomercial, but I make things that I find extremely useful and are super fun to sell direct to the customer and have that community relation. It's like I'm customer service. I answer every email. And yeah, I have built a machine to make it like a true business. I think it's a service to the community to make something that's lasting, because there's so many cottage brands that start up with enthusiasm and then die of attrition. And yeah, I've tried to build it so this thing will last, though I'm not necessarily trying to get into ropes and carabiners. I just want to make these fun side things.
Does How Not To list your gear?
Yeah, How Not To use a strong partner, but otherwise, I'm not trying to get into REI. I'm like my web store or core brick and mortar gear shops, but like not trying to be on REI or Backcountry or those stores.
Yeah. Are you handling fulfillment and everything, or is that all outsourced?
It's set up as a machine around me. So I know what I'm best at. It's the ideation, and it's getting from nothing to like a workable concept. And then I do product development. So just like Black Diamond and any other company these days, you work with contract manufacturers that are really good at making a thing, and you share your specs, you make a quality plan, and you buy them in large batches. And then I do have a warehouse partner because I don't live the full travel life, but I also do travel a bit. So I didn't want to be cramping my climbing lifestyle for the sake of shipping out packages at the USPS store or at the post office. Speaking of attrition, that's where businesses go to die.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you in our pre-call, you asked how it's different than just a little cottage brand. I think the difference is I do fancy myself as an entrepreneur, and I do really care about making this business that will exist long-term and be stable. And I've actually been in the e-commerce business since I was like 14, selling vanity patches for motocross apparel with like hard-coded HTML website and PayPal. Like, funny enough, I've been in the e-commerce game for a long time, and I shipped packages at the post office. I knew what I didn't want to do in creating Avant and creating it to last. So yeah, it's a pretty lean modern business that I built to serve the community and offer this stuff long term, and always have it in stock as well.
Cool. Yeah, it's awesome. It's like Avant is like a culmination of like everything that you've been from the beginning, from the tinkering to your experience with manufacturing to the big like moving past product design to your experience as a climber and finding the problems that you need to solve. Like, I just love to see it all kind of come together into one business, one product, one like final product. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really satisfying. Isn't that how life works? Is like 3 years ago, 5 years ago, I did feel a bit aimless. I mentioned boredom, but aimless is maybe a better word. Or like, this is fun recreation. I don't know what I'm up to in my life, big picture. But it all backwards, it's really easy to draw a line. Like, wow, yeah, it really did teach me how to do these things. Even running the community makerspace, I learned system creation and how to like design myself out of the role to make a lasting community resource. Like I apply that language to Avant, and maybe some people will be skeptical because it's a commercial enterprise, but like that's what I did at this makerspace is I don't work there anymore, and it's thriving. And it was because I created these systems that would let the entity live beyond me.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome, man. I'm stoked for you. It's really cool. It's not something that a lot of people, I don't know. It's unique. It's rare. It's special. And I know I've done like a Kickstarter before. I've launched see that red thing on the front of that lens.
Oh yeah.
So that's like a dead product.
Oh, nice. You've done the e-commerce game.
I've done the e-commerce game. I've done the product design, the development. I've been in that space before, and I know how hard it is and how thankless it can be at times in the beginning. So it's really cool to see everything kind of come to work in the end, and you find it a machine that works outside of you. I think that's the biggest thing, because you don't want your business to eat you and your time. So that's cool.
Yeah, I feel really grateful. Like I feel proud. I feel grateful for how much community support and enthusiasm is around the brand, and yeah, I'm lucky that what inherently appeals to me is celebrated and desired in the community.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rad. Yeah, hopefully I can uh, get more people to know about Avant and what you're doing. This question here is like, I guess summarizing everything. Like, you're climbing hard, you're building community, you're developing routes, like inventing new gear. It's like more than a lot of us dream to achieve in a way. Like, obviously you found yourself, everyone has their own specific life path, and it's all kind of culminated into this one thing. But it's a lot, like you've done a lot. You said you've had more of a practical approach like to your life than a philosophical one, but like where's the meaning behind what you do? Like, what drives you? Where's your passion? Like, all of these things that you've pursued and you've gone after, what has been like this driving force behind your effort all this year?
Thanks for the kind words. I think it's the user design. I call it world creation, which might be lost on without an explanation, but it's like these little microcosms of like this world, this makerspace community didn't exist, but I saw the building, I saw in my mind what this could be and other models. Yeah, like we know makerspaces can exist. One can exist here. Like, how do we do it? Yeah, I think it's dreaming up possibilities in my mind's eye and just like really believing it's possible, and then almost not being able to not see it through, of like getting fixated on this should exist. Let's make it happen. And yeah, enjoying the puzzle along the way.
What's next? It seems like you're the kind of person that right now you're basking in the glory of like the success of Avant and like the culmination of the efforts that have, been decades of work. But it seems like there's going to be a next, like a next horizon, a next vision. Like, do you have a next vision? Do you have an idea of what the future looks like?
I have themes that I think about, and I don't know if being in the climbing industry will be like my forever career, to be honest. I think Avant's like a really sweet spot right now, but I don't really want an office and like director level C-suite executives and like this thing. I do enjoy business, but I don't think I would enjoy that version. So Avant's not going anywhere, and I have plans to keep launching products, but at like a linear rate of like, we're doing the same thing and here's some more cool stuff.
As you come across problems, you're like, oh, here's another product.
Yeah, exactly. And my product development cycle, because I'm not selling into those calendars, is like whenever I want. Let's do it. Let's launch it, which is great. It's like an amazing, flexible place. But I think longer term career, I think maybe something back into like the makerspace community creation / real estate remodeling. I don't know. Something local centric. I've dreamed up of having like a community wood shop that's like a collaborative space for professionals. So like a makerspace for professionals, co-working for woodworking and carpentry and furniture making. That's like a faint idea I've thought about. Things like that. It's kind of like maybe something more tangible, something to contrast climbing. But yeah, Avant's not going anywhere anytime soon. This is like 10-year plans. Yeah. Who knows?
Nice. So, I mean, I guess to close it off on like the climbing side of it, you have spent like most of 2025 like bouldering. That was kind of like a focus of yours for that year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did a lot of bouldering. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Started.
And it seems I'm piecing things together here, Frankenstein style. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like that choice for that year, that focus was in response to this kind of like 13 plus ceiling that you've experienced, and also the I'm sure heartbreaking few move miss of Magic Line. Is that all connected in a way? And is that kind of like in the climbing world, is that like your next goal is to like free that route?
Yeah, it is a guiding goal and something I keep getting painfully close to. For trad climbing, for redpointing hard trad routes, they get fewer and fewer much more so than hard sport routes. Hard sport routes at 514 level, you have tons of options and you can find one to suit you. And the trad climbs get finicky, whether poorly protected or just like you only have a few options. So if the moves are awkward for you, you get what you get. But yeah, kind of your point of you feel like you are close together. I feel like I've heard it described as raising the floor, like my baseline of on-sighting, feeling comfortable versus like what my red point ability is. I think they are like fairly compressed for an elite rock climber. And the like peak climbing, I do think you need stimulus that's just doing hard moves. And yeah, hard sport climbing hasn't pulled me in as much as hard bouldering, probably just by environment of like, yeah, not enjoying the echoey sport crags as much, the autonomy of just going out with a pad with or without friends. Yeah, for a few reasons. So I have leaned into bouldering as a way to basically train, learn, perform hard moves while still being outside instead of just like going to the board at the gym.
Yeah. What's do you have like a timeline on Magic Climb? Are you gonna go back and try it?
So I tried it. You probably read a blog post from like a year ago.
It was a while ago, yeah.
And I tried it again this fall and I one hung it again. And I like low point one hung. Didn't quite do it. And then it got like too hot and then it snowed. Which I wasn't for sure going to do it, but I was feeling really good. And my window was really short this year for seasonality reasons. But I do love the Sierra, and I moved to the Greater Tahoe region to be closer to Yosemite and Sierra Granite. So I'm hoping, yeah, that route I feel inspired by, big picture. Like it's been a guiding motivation for like 6 or 7 years, and I've spent a few seasons working on it, becoming super close. And there have been moments where like it's felt maybe not worth it in the projecting sense of just spending days beating my head against this route. And then there's the classic story of days where I let go of that and I'm spending time up with these amazing people, these climbers I look up to, and making new friends. And whether or not I sent this amazing day out. So yeah, as long as I still have those days, I'm going to still keep trying.
Hell yeah. Where can people follow your story, follow your work? What are some good resources that people can learn more about you?
Yeah, the Avant ecosystem is mostly where I'm sharing thoughts these days. So the Avant newsletter is written by me, and it's where I geek out. We just talk for hours about these little contrarian thoughts or like geeky opinions, and my newsletter is just full of that. So that's just the Avant climbing website and a little subscribe button. The Avant social media is kind of similar. And then I do have my personal website, brentbarghahn.com, with a blog. At this point, I'll probably share trip reports like once or twice a year, kind of on purpose, of like sparingly share some thoughts if I do something that I feel is cool.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time. It's been just super rad to sit down with you. And I never really know what I'm like going to get myself into with like these conversations. But each time, I mean, especially now, just like, I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised, because that like connotates like a low expectation. But I had a really great time chatting with you. It's been cool.
I had a great time too. I'm glad we were able to do this in person, and I'm glad I didn't overstep your box for every person climbing.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think, no shade to Alex Honnold. I think what he's done has just been prolific for climbing, for the sport, and for what's possible. But I think the day I interview Alex Honnold is the day I sell out. So, so I think that might be the ceiling. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's been cool to share your story.
Thank you.